He's that bad.
Yeah, kind of.
Kind of? Okay.
I think he could be good. Yeah.
All right. Here we
Just
go.
super curious.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Smudcast number 637, when nostalgia becomes toxic. Oh my. What are we going to cover today? This is from Jay's Reviews, which came out just last month. Has almost 150,000 views, and he is a YouTuber with 184,000 subs, so that seems pretty par for what he's doing. And we were just talking about him before the video, and not the brightest light we shone on him. So maybe we got this wrong. Maybe he's a really good critic, and he contemplates his ideas, and he comes back to them every so often. But apparently, if I was told correctly, you said that he has multiple reviews.
Yes.
For the same whatever.
Same series. Like, he has multiple reviews now of Ratchet and Clank. He's done multiple reviews of the same Mega Man games. Just
okay.
He'll put out like a second try to be like, because he wants to do the game. I think in his own words, like, he just wants to do the game justice because and he's like, he's older and stuff.
And how long are these reviews? Like 20 minutes, 30 minutes?
40 minutes.
40 minutes
average.
Okay.
Yes. I think the Mega Man stuff and the Ratchet stuff, they're usually around 40 minutes.
And that's one game or multiple games?
That's for each entry.
So he does 3 reviews per entry?
Or no, his channel started out with a bunch of Mega Man reviews, and then a few years later he did a second reviews of the same games he covered, and he did that, I think, last year with Ratchet and Clank. He did reviews of each entry around like 5 years ago, and then last summer of 21, he did like another attempt at reviewing the series.
Jeez. Okay. Well, to me that sounds like he does not know what he's doing. If you keep doing the same thing over again and you have to somehow miss something the first time, you have to go. Like, I don't think these games are that deep. Like Ratchet and Clank, that I missed this nuance, this theme, this character moment. It's like, really? From Ratchet and Clank or Sly Cooper? I don't know. I know they're good games. I know they're not that deep, though. So they probably don't warrant multiple eyeballs over the years. But what do I know?
I was thinking his words, it was because he played more recent games in between those reviews, and he thought he could give a more educated review of like the mechanics and how they work because he was older and wiser, that kind of thing.
Oh God. Yeah. Before I was casual, and then also before I wasn't paying attention, but now I'm hardcore, and now I know how controllers work. And you're like, what? Okay. All right. Well, whatever. That's fine. We'll just see what he has to say regarding this, because this is not about gaming. This is about nostalgia. So we will see what he has to say. It is an over 20-minute video. We probably won't cover it all because it sounds like we'll get bored. But you never know. We'll see if he entertains us for the rest of the time. Who knows? Okay. So we're all on the watch together, I see. The volume looks good. You guys sound all right. Let's get going.
Wait, is everyone in?
1, 2, 3, 4. I hope so. Mike, are you there?
Mike's here now.
Mike, you want to jump into the watch together, Mike, or is that?
I need a few more minutes. I thought we'd start an hour later.
An hour later?
Yeah, still 22 here.
Are we are we on the non-used leap year? What is it called?
Oh wait, it is.
No, I think that might be next year for the leap year.
Oh yeah, we changed time already. Okay.
Yeah,
it's not a leap year, is it?
No, it's not about a leap year.
We're on a different date. All right. Anyway, let's get going. You can catch up, Wisp, whenever you're ready.
One topic I'm sure we've all heard about to no end in the last several years is nostalgia. It is an undeniable fact that we live in a media landscape thoroughly dominated by nostalgia, particularly in big-budget Hollywood productions. New IPs and ideas fighting an uphill battle to get greenlit in numerous industries because of the fact that executives are afraid of potential losses incurred trying to generate interest in something new, shifting attention towards bringing back the same IPs we've all seen a billion times. This gradual shift towards a culture of nostalgia has been going on for
Okay, wait. There's no such thing as a culture of nostalgia. That's like saying there's a society of fear or some sort of like melancholy scene.
No, you can form a society out of fear.
Yeah, but not literally. Like he's talking about this milieu of Hollywood has this culture of we only do nostalgia bait. It's like, no, you do new Marvel films, even though it's Marvel, it's still part of a brand. It's new. It's in a new light. So
Even though it's the same characters from like 60 years ago.
yeah, but no one like that's the thing. Like no one knows them. Like I don't know them. I've read lots of comic books from the 70s, but I don't know them. There's so many, and that's what's old is new. That's totally cool. But there is no culture of nostalgia. I don't know what that even implies.
Pretty sure a
Maybe.
culture of nostalgia could lead to horrifying consequences from time to time.
Well, yeah, it's like a culture of melancholy. It's like, oh, I feel something, and everyone's in this weird cultural
It could,
soup. You know,
it
you're
could,
like, what are you talking about?
could either lead to phantom memories.
Oh yeah,
It's like, oh man, this is not as good as I remember.
I watched episode
10 years
8
ago.
again, and I got traumatized, and now we're remaking Star Wars again. Yeah, maybe. Anyway,
Depending on where he goes with this, we might have to bring up Star Wars Episode 8.
I think he might bring up Star Wars Episode 8 in this.
I know what series had my Star Wars Episode 8.
Well, I think when it comes to nostalgia right now, people look on it maybe negatively in terms because they see it as a justification for constant remakes.
that's just how Hollywood works. They try to do safe bets, and that's if you're spending millions of bucks or dozens, if not hundreds, you want to make sure your investment returns because there's so many other options outside of making movies to put that kind of money into and be safe. So there has to be some good like bet that is not a gamble that you can make for a return on investment, which isn't that hard. We got Puss in Boots, great film, animated. People love it. It's probably the best animated film of the year, going to be. And it's from nostalgia. But it's a new story.
Like, it doesn't have to be a remake to tap into nostalgia.
Yeah, exactly.
Does anyone really care about Puss in Boots that he was in Shrek?
No, not really. Not really, but they took a secondary character and they made his own film and it worked because they knew how to write. So
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. It's like the idea is, I think where he's going with the culture of nostalgia is that within Hollywood they think that they can just take any name, say Willow, and put on a new coat of paint. Don't give a fuck about the writing.
it's
Just
the
put it out there.
yeah, it's the same regards to all the various Disney knockoffs, like the same IP. They take like Jasmine and Aladdin, and they have straight to DVD or straight to VHS because it wasn't big enough, it wasn't good enough. The writing and production value was not good enough for the movies, so they just put it to Blockbuster or whatever the store was. So that's the same thing. It's just they're doing that with major brands now because it's all they got. They're too scared. Anyway.
The pop culture boom of the 1980s being an interesting origin point as countless new and iconic films and games were released, but now we have movies, sequel, reboots, remaking movies that already existed. Now, analyzing how pop culture evolved in a way to where nostalgia...
He says that he points to the 80s as an origin point, and I'm not really sure about.
You could pick any decade. They all have their own moments, their own movies, their own stories, their own current events. I mean, it's 80s its own vibe, 70s, 90s, 2000s. Like they all have their own
I would
vibe.
go for the 50s if you want to point to the 80s, because there's usually like a 30-year gap between. All right, time to remake a bunch of classics for the next generation.
I think 80s was a big pool because there's just so many 80s and 90s were so big because there were cheap films that could come out, whether they were romantic comedies or action adventures.
Or horror.
Or
Yeah, there was so much. So there's lots to work with, and there was nothing wrong with that setup, but you still have to do something new and innovative when you make a film. So you can get the IP for Nightmare on Elm Street or whatever. It's still going to be a cheesy film, but you can't make it bad.
Yeah.
So that's the problem with all these, what was it, the Resident Evil films? They're just so bad. They're so dumb.
They're not
Aren't
even
they on,
Resident
like,
Evil. They're
9?
just like, I don't know. It just kind of pretends to be Resident Evil, while the director decides, how How do I sneak my wife into the film and pretend to make a Resident Evil film movie? I know. I'll do it this way.
Yeah, and if you look at
Hey.
the Resident Evil games, they start off kind of flimsy as well because they're playing on with that horror sort of trapped environment, trapped camera angle, tank controls, all that sort of, you feel limited. And then all of a sudden, was it Resident Evil 4 or just the level blows up?
Yeah. 4 was
No,
where it
that's-
changed to.
That's 2 and 3 where you get nuked,
Yeah, so
where it gets insane.
the technology gets better, the cameras get better, the techniques get better for storytelling and gameplay. So you can always do a retro style feel or use retro style controls and camera angles, but just beef up what's already there, like the engine, the graphics, the physics, and still tell a nostalgic game with a different coat of paint. And you don't have to call it Resident Evil. There's so many ways to do gaming, and I don't think games are
Evil Within.
Yeah, you don't have to use an IP to make a horror game or a first-person survival horror or whatever. So you can do it nowadays. You have much more freedom or creative control in a video game than you do with the movie.
Unless I think he means like he points to 80s as the origin point because that's like it's because the franchises that started in the 80s are still going.
I guess like Ghostbusters they tried to remake, and now we have the wonders of was it Spielberg and Indiana Jones? Was that Spielberg? I can't remember.
Did Indiana Jones start in the 80s?
It was Spielberg and Lucas.
Lucas, yeah.
Indiana Jones.
And Terminator, they still kind of have the franchise on life support.
I only think there's only good 2 movies.
Oh,
Everything
boy.
after that just kind of falls down the hill.
All right. Well, here's Ginga. How you doing, Gingaman? Not a culture of nostalgia, but if we keep going with the Star Wars example, they've definitely grown a habit of replacing nostalgia stuff with new stuff, like replacing Kyle Katarn with Jyn Erso and Starkiller with Cal Kestis, to give a couple examples. Those are game examples, though, I think, aren't they? The Cal one, yeah, Starkiller. See, with gaming, it's okay. Gaming makes sense because you have iterations, you have sequels, and it makes its own IP anyway. KOTOR is its own thing. But
Well, his point is that they're stealing their plotline.
oh yeah, really?
Yeah, they're just
Yeah,
copy and pasting stuff that they nuked.
For example, the whole Emperor was a lie the whole time because he cloned himself was from the original Legends.
Well,
Like that was like a triple storyline.
yeah, considering that was the whole purchase that they got with buying the IP, and they could like, oh, we'll get rid of Legends, and then, hey, look at this amazing book no one's heard of. Let's just remake that. They're sort of delving into that lore, which they nuked.
Here's this convenient library that I totally didn't destroy. I'm gonna go take from that book.
And then afterwards,
Oh,
like,
right, we
have
wanted to make money.
Yeah, then go. We have no comics, no books to base our movies on. It all has to come from the directors.
Yeah, can you imagine buying the Norse IP and going, we're going to eliminate all of the poems and then start our own and no one likes it? And you're like, oh, wait a second.
We're gonna wipe out the prose edda. There
The
goes
Norse
80%
IP.
of characterization of all the gods.
Get rid of all the gods. Make our own. No one likes them. Oh, wait, who's Thor? Let's bring him back. Like, oh, who, what? Yeah. Amazing how things work when...
Oh, I mean, yeah. Speaking of nostalgia, Keaton's coming back.
Oh, dear. Why not? Again. He's coming back again.
I'm fine for that.
Yeah, well. Okay.
Was such a powerful force isn't what I'm here for. That's a subject someone else could cover in more depth than me. Instead, I want to use the fact that we live in a media landscape dominated by nostalgia as a springboard to discuss something specific. Nostalgia doesn't just affect the things that get made and how they're made on the business end. Nostalgia also plays a massive part in how the online discourse surrounding these IPs plays out. If you're unfamiliar, this channel has largely dealt with popular franchises and media that is more often than not
Sonic.
over 15 years old, whether that be the DC Animated Universe cartoons, the 2000s Ninja Turtles, Star Wars, Sonic the Hedgehog, Mega Man, Metal Gear, Devil May Cry, Resident Evil, Sly Cooper, Ratchet and Clank, Jak and Daxter, and so on.
And so on, I bet you listed everything right now.
These nostalgic properties, and thus I have noticed trends in online discourse that
The trends.
That was everything.
The trends in online discourse. Wow, if someone makes a movie or a video game, people are going to have online discourse about it. Great. That's amazing. Thank you for that insight. Imagine if they made us a different game. Well, I guess we'd be talking about that then, wouldn't we?
Well, the worry I had pre-stream, and having right now still, is that this is going to be a glorified apology letter to the people that whipped him into submission, to be frank, his Tuber 4 video.
That was more the last video, not...
This is coming across as, I'm not sure exactly what I want to say, but I want to use this topic, and I'll just keep talking for the next 20 minutes.
A side question. Roro Noah Zoro in the chat. Does anyone actually have a different position to what you just wrote?
Which was what?
That the helicopter lightsabers are more ridiculous than the standard double-sided lightsabers.
No, that's more ridiculous. That's stupid.
That was in Rebels, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Why did you
Stupidest thing I ever... Is there a stupider thing in Star Wars than that?
That's the thing that makes no sense. Like, use the Force.
Episode 3 was pretty dumb. I don't know.
There is the whip, like the lightsaber whip.
That's in Legends. Yeah, that's kind of cool though.
These nano wire whips, they exist in other things too. So.
Oh yeah, there's a guy that's decked out in a bear wrestling suit, but it's just lightsabers.
What?
What?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean that like Russian bear fighting suit with a bunch of spikes, but it's all lightsabers?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's lightsaber armor made out of lightsabers.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see all of these stupid adaptations. I can accept more than the laws of physics impossible helicopter lightsabers, because they how is that supposed to work even?
There might be one thing dumber than
they're not
the
wings.
helicopter.
They're not pushing anything in any direction. They do not control in which direction any air is flowing or what the heat goes on. The only thing on par with that are of one of the bosses, I think the Togruta, forgot her name right now, Shakti, in Force Unleashed. She has lightsaber Tonfa.
Oh.
And lightsaber Tonfa is the stupidest application of lightsabers in an exotic weapon. Because, with the lightsaber you're supposed to block, and this is the lightsaber blade goes exactly next to your arm, along the length of your arm, with which you then somehow block. This just dumb.
I don't know. I think Anakin's saying, it is not the Jedi way. He must live. I need him. No.
Oh, I was expecting the armor to look a whole lot dumber than it appears there.
Yeah,
It's
looks
dumb, but I was expecting something way.
I was
way
expecting a lot worse.
Yeah. My imagination ran wild.
This is as dumb as it gets.
This is still okay-ish.
I was expecting 3 times the amount of lightsabers.
I was expecting 100 times the lightsabers.
I was just expecting the suit being made of entirely just the beam itself.
Just going.
He just turns on the suit, just this big blast of energy.
It's how the hell do you move?
It blinds the enemy.
I mean, that still looks grounded.
That still looks like good
And-
sci-fi.
Yeah, and the knee spikes, the lightsaber knee spikes.
What?
They look
didn't even
silly,
notice
but they're
that.
useful.
No.
They're useful.
No.
I didn't notice that at all. I thought those were coming out of his hands.
Stop talking. That sounds too stupid. Anyway, let's continue on with whatever he was talking about, which was worse than what you're talking about.
It's about
I
trends.
find unfortunate, but also intergenerational. So I'm here to discuss it. As I've been involved with a lot of internet communities, this video is going to bounce between a bunch of different fan bases and franchises, so be ready for that. A lot of folks dismiss nostalgia on principle. I do get the idea, since intentionally going backward.
How do you dismiss nostalgia? That's a very weird phrase.
On
What
which
do you mean by
principle?
that?
Which principle exactly do you dismiss it? Like, what does that mean? Like, my
He's
principles.
saying other people dismiss it.
Yeah, but on what principle?
He needs to elaborate.
Which principle says nostalgia bad? was like, no, it's not. Like, what? If I watch an episode of Star Trek, is that bad? Why?
No, he didn't even say it's bad. He just says that people dismiss nostalgia. What does he mean by that? What's
He's
that
about
supposed
to
to mean?
say it.
I mean,
Who
I just
does
think.
that?
I mean,
What
I
is
just
that?
think-
What is that majority he speaks of?
I mean, nostalgia is a good thing, but it can be a bit of a double edge from time to time.
He goes
He didn't
into
even
The only
say
problem with
nostalgia.
nostalgia is when companies try to exploit it, and it usually turns to shit.
But yeah, that's an establishment of rules, like establishment of grounds for your argument. He hasn't stated that. He just says people dismiss nostalgia. What does that mean?
He's gonna. I think he has like 6 points that make up the video.
Fun. Okay, here's Gingaman. Hey, Gingaman, how's it going again? I hate to burst your bubble, Wisp, but it wasn't Shakti that has lightsaber Tonfa. It was her apprentice. Oh, jeez.
Okay.
Gingaman.
Oh, that's all right, but it was a Togruta that I remember. And it's the same in Soul Calibur. I love playing Talim, but her all the other versions of her Tonfa are blades.
What's a
Imagine
tonfa?
using a blade for a Tonfa.
That would hurt.
You're supposed to block with that thing, and then it cuts into your arm instead. Oh god.
Tonfa sounds like a Japanese tofu or something.
No, Tonfa, you know these police sticks with the side stick coming out on the side?
It's a billy stick, essentially. It's basically a cross, yeah.
If it has the side stick coming out, that's a Tonfa, which is technically
Oh yeah, I've always called them police batons or just batons.
well that's where most people know them from. I think we even say Tonfa in Germany, but what they actually are originally is a stick with which you drive a millstone. Because the stick that sticks out on the side, that's what you put in the hole in the millstone, and then you turn the millstone with it. So it's technically an improvised weapon.
Yeah.
It's just a very good one. It's a very good stick.
Look at
Because you can do funny things with it.
the hero of Suikoden 2. He's got Tonfa. He's a kid. So
Yeah.
and his sister has a tri-staff for whatever cool reason. But yeah, anyway. Let's keep going.
I'm waiting for him to elaborate on what he means by dismiss nostalgia.
He won't. Don't worry.
Oh,
I think it's case by case, since I really like nostalgia, on average. So, despite Sonic being on the thumbnail, this video is not about Green Hill Zone being overused. But seriously though, I remember being asked if I thought it was bad that Mega Man 9 and Mega Man 10 were NES throwback games. I can expand on this when I eventually cover the classic Mega Man series, but my answer was no. In context, it made a lot of sense. Gaming had done nothing but progress forward for almost 40 years, and in the late 2000s, people had finally started to feel nostalgic for the old days of the NES, and thus games like Mega Man 9 released, harkening back to that bygone age.
No, it's a Mega Man game. It has nothing to do with technology. That's just the style of game. This is after Mega Man X came out, I think.
yes, it was pretty. Mega Man X had a ton of stuff at this point.
Yeah, so
It just stays true to the original formula.
yeah, it's like making a next Castlevania game. It's a side scroller, 2D, 16-bit art. Yeah.
No, Smut. No, Mega Man 7 was a 32-bit. That was for the SNES. Then
Oh,
you
yeah,
had Mega
and
Man 8, that was on the PS1.
So the
It had cutscenes and everything.
so the graphic
And it
palette
went-
was bigger.
same-
Okay.
The art style was very different in the Mega Man before this.
Oh, it's not just art style. It's like every sprite is bigger, is my point. And in the PS1 era, they went 3D with the models, with the 2D stages.
Well, that's
They
fine.
were still and my point is that they were pushing technology. And then but if you just go by them chronologically, you have 8, which has 3D models, and then you get to 9 and 10, which is back to pixel art.
Well, yeah, but you could even mention the 2.5D style in Rondo of Blood for Castlevania. It's still the same. You're still side-scrolling. You're not doing anything inherently different in terms of gameplay. It just looks different. So,
I see. So it's like he's like, it's not nostalgia baiting with gameplay. It's just the different.
we have a better physics engine. We have better graphics engine. We have better hardware. We have better software. But we're making the same style of game. Like Metroid Dread is still Metroid. There's no difference between that and Super Metroid. Yeah, there's a few more mechanics, but it looks a little better. But it's still Metroid.
Basically, when you get this game, you know what you're getting. That's the important part.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the statement being made.
You're not part
clear.
2 is that like you make a game and then part 2 is a completely different type of game because we want to explore new territory.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to make clear is that his point is that people that were writing these games, because I remember back in like 2012, I was picking up on Discourse then that was still going on about how these games essentially betrayed progression in the classic Mega Man games.
What? How?
As I said, his one was pushing the limit of his sorta 2E5, and we're hoping for something else. But then they went back to Retro Saga, like, oh, you're just baiting nostalgia.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, they're doing the same formula they've always done. It's like, yes, that's what Mega Man does. All right.
Especially different in the 2000s in terms of how many sub-series there were compared to the old days where it was just the NES games. How it's done is a different discussion, but I'm certainly okay with a game like this coming out to celebrate something old. I also felt that the time travel in Avengers Endgame was used to produce a lot of funny and also wholesome moments, even using the least liked MCU material for that purpose. So I'm saying that I'm not someone who is a new age purist or an old age purist. I love old things. I own every PlayStation console and enjoy playing.
That Avengers Endgame reference was completely unwarranted because you don't need nostalgia for an ongoing movie franchise where you want closure on everything you just watched.
Mm-hmm. So how about we do this plot without time travel?
You can't. You literally can't without killing off a bunch of characters who haven't gotten closure on their arcs. Unless
No more time
Thanos
travel.
snapping them is the arc.
I'm trying to remember the comics, whether time travel was involved. I'm sure it was by Thanos, but maybe not by everyone else. I'm trying to remember exactly.
Oh, the Lords of the Universe eventually showed up and told Thanos go fuck himself, and Thanos went, go fuck yourself. Uno reverse.
Oh.
Uno reverse, I become you.
Yeah, but at that point, is the logical plot would be seek out the greater entities of the universe.
And what were they doing while Thanos was ruining everything?
Watching.
That's the problem with dragging in all these other entities, because then the question becomes, why would they intervene now?
Because they knew it has to happen this way.
Yeah, so whenever you talk about all these other beings that they bring up later, it's like, why weren't you when Thanos was out destroying the universe? It's like,
Yeah, where was the Galactus thingy?
yeah, where's Galactus and all his buddies?
Was Khan planning the whole Thanos thing? Because he said that there's no diverging timelines under his guy, so all the whole multiverse before the Loki show was actually all planned by him, and they were seen by him. Does that mean that Thanos snapping his fingers and forcing the team to go time traveling, was that all part of his great plan?
He saw it beforehand. Yeah, exactly.
The whole thing was stupid because I thought there's for every other universe in the multiverse, there's a different set of stones that only work for that. Like calibrated remotes that are attuned to that specific universe. When you do this with timeline shenanigans as well, then it just breaks down.
Well, you'd think that it'd be like that, because otherwise, if the whole plot is about the stones, right? That's the big argument, is that the stones have been the big build-up for the entire franchise. If you can just jump into a different timeline, it's time zone or universe, why did Doctor Strange not just immediately get all the stones? Because he knows those guys are relevant. Like, several bad guys have now been trying to get these things.
Because in their timeline, it would not work and fail in the end, because he has already foreseen that.
Yeah, whereas the comic book used actual people who represented the stones, like Adam Warlock, who was in charge of the Heartstone, I think. So they had people who were like safeguards if what happened to the stones were being misused. So they had some control over what they could do. But you know, these are the comics. These are different in the 90s.
Yeah.
So.
The problem is just that they broke the law for the movies.
The movies,
Yeah,
I
and
don't.
excusing it as, oh, it's good nostalgia is fucking lazy.
It's
And
a
then,
concept.
and then I wonder why they write themselves into corners after breaking the laws of the story.
Anyway, let's go.
Great.
games and their original hardware whenever I can for that nostalgia. I mean, you aren't getting the full experience of PS1 or PS2 without those boot-up screens. At the same time, I think the current age of streaming TV has produced an age of absolutely fantastic drama and comedy. The big TV dramas have been some of the best entertainment of the last 20 years or so, and I think they only get better with the decade, regardless of the fact that Hollywood is more concerned with churning out the same IPs over and over. So there are good things going on and bad things, like always. So if I'm not here to argue that nostalgia is bad on face value, nor am I here to say it's not as it was back in my day, what exactly is this dark side of nostalgia video based on? Well, like I said, being involved in the discourse of these valued nostalgic IPs, I have noticed trends that are similar in communities all over the internet. Trends that are centered on people's nostalgia and their ability to relate to that nostalgia and newer things that release. It's wearying to see a lot of the same arguments and talking points that lack nuance being endlessly recycled. If you're a fan of the franchises I'm talking about, just know I'm not talking about everybody, so if you aren't guilty of the practices I'm about to speak on, then don't feel called out, as that's not what I'm going for. I have plenty of positive interactions with the fans of these franchises, and I'd be willing to bet that the positive outweighs the negative. But since these trends are so common, I thought it was worth a video.
Oh,
I
here we
think it's
go.
curious that, and I'm think it's curious that you made this video following your re-review of your most infamous video in your entire roster,
Yeah.
which got you blackmailed from an entire community.
This has nothing to
Me
do
too
with
negative.
the quality of the movie or the game. It has to do with the fans. And the fans are going to be
Absolutely.
toxic.
It took 4
I wanna
minutes
talk
for him to
in a
say
bullet
nothing.
point.
I'm gonna bring just a little trivia fact when we get to the Sly 4 part of his video here.
All right.
I may have brought it up, unless you're talking about like the game itself.
Nah, just something even worse.
All right.
A trivia with him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Various examples. So let's begin. Toxic trend number 1, a rejection of modernity. I think a lot of people had a phase
What?
being too
What does that
good
mean?
for all those new things that could never compare to the old.
Such.
This one is simple.
I have an
Being
idea.
a contrarian by hating new games and new movies and new shows, oftentimes without having actually watched them or played them.
What
or
are you
whatever.
talking about?
My favorite case study of this one is people who are diehard fans of PlayStation platformers, specifically these
think it's
5.
just
Sly
hating it
Cooper,
'cause
Jack
it's
and
new?
Daxter,
My prediction is that he conflates modernity with woke politics ideology inserted into games.
I'm not even sure what he's on
And that,
about.
that rejecting that is the toxicity.
Rejection of modernity, and then he gives the example of PlayStation platformers. I'm like, what?
He's
I
not
mean,
done with he's not done with his thing yet.
Yeah, I think it's mostly he's talking about he's picking a Crash for example, because there are people who are like Crash fans who only like the Naughty Dog stuff, and they were just like any new game because Naughty Dog's not making them anymore.
Then he just start making a list, so he's just starting with the old games, and then he will give us the new ones that changed things and that people rejected. For example, example of modernity in video games would be the new GTA, which people hated and largely didn't buy.
Oh, you mean Saints Row?
Saints Row? Saints Row.
Yeah,
Damn
you
it.
said GTA.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Saints Row. Totally different game. Totally different. Yeah, that was full of woke shit, so people hated it. That's modernity. That's what I
For
sell us as
now-
modernity, because
for-
that's what's supposed to be for the modern audience, and we refuse to become modern people.
Wisp. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt for now.
Yeah.
And see if he brings it up. We got a complaint on our water video that when we consider somebody stupid or think that they're making retarded arguments early into the video, we're gonna treat them like an idiot throughout the video. So I think it's fair that we wait, see what arguments he makes, and then extrapolate from there.
I just made a prediction because I want to see if it's right. Because
Well-
sometimes I am wrong. And yes, chat, I goofed. I did goofed the second time today, at least.
He is giving.
And I will goof more today.
He's giving the comparison of old platformers, and I want to know what he's talking about in relation to modern platformers that we are rejecting, supposedly. So,
Yeah, I think this point kind of goes into what I brought up about his other video about Sly 4, was because there was like people accused him of hating on Sly 4 because it was a new Sly game, made by a different studio.
Okay.
So I was like, I thought it might be it. It's like people got hate because it's not made by the original devs from years back, and that's why they're gonna hate everything new from the franchise because the original devs aren't a part of it.
Okay. Anyway, let's go.
Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon. Having spent a lot of time in the last 8 years covering these things has meant I have been a witness to the exact same conversations over and over again. This is back when games were original and cool and fun and didn't hold your hand. And the thing that we're talking about is Sly Cooper, a franchise that literally holds your hand at every step of the way and requires almost no effort to platform around in because there's a land on platform for me button in every game. The Sly Cooper trilogy is one of my favorite things to ever exist, so that's not a dig at it, it is what it is, a fun kids platformer.
I was looking away for a sec. Did he give an example of somebody saying that Sly Cooper didn't hold your hand, or did he just make a statement?
No, it does. He's aware of it.
No, like, did he show a comment of somebody?
He showed a few
saying
comments,
this
yeah,
was
but
back with...
yeah, he showed 2 comments.
All right, at least he's basing it off of comments he's seen. That's good.
He's not going anywhere yet, but let's see where.
It is important to me, as it used to be lost on points from this crowd that the same games are oversaturated these days, and 10 to 12 years ago I'd agree. In the late 7th generation of consoles, this is a fair statement. The first-person or third-person shooter dominated the market, no different to how platformers did in the 80s and 90s especially. But in the last several years, I think the gaming industry has evolved to embrace genre variety. Big-budget titles in different genres are coming out all the time. Horror games have made a comeback, platformers have had a comeback, hack-and-slash games are thriving, different art styles are being played around
Platformers were gone?
What is he talking about?
Kinda.
When were platformers gone?
He's talking about the narrative that FPS shooters were dominating the market, and that's caused the saturation. That really wasn't a fucking
In
problem.
Japan? Where?
That's another thing. Okay, so mid-2000, what was the thing that was going on around like the 2000s?
Well,
In Japan?
No, not just Japan, just everywhere.
I would argue
More realistic games.
I would argue the Battlefield series was getting bigger. We had third-person shooters started getting bigger, cover shooters. In the West, I would argue Halo was a big deal.
Yeah, you hit it on the head, Smud. Shooters were getting big around that time. You know what games were getting shit on the entire time?
Well,
Anything coming out of fucking Japan.
well, in comparison, the sales were different, but in Japan, it was a different story. So, Japan had its
Exactly.
own culture of gaming, so that's totally fine. So, is he talking about his experiences, like his localized area?
He has to.
Well,
Otherwise,
when it comes to platformers, it's like people bring that up about how platformers died off. It's mostly just meaning the West, like the big studios in the West stopped making or like giving any attention to platform games, and it was all about the new military shooters.
And if you want to use the argument that, oh no, the market has learned to accept variety, mother goddamn fucker. We had the indie scene in like 2012, 2013. Remember Super Meat Boy?
You had
Castle
every
Crackers?
I wish
you
I
had every
could.
genre in the indie scene, especially the more classic ones, and even on the consoles. Just look at the Nintendo stuff. They always stuck to their basic characters and basic genres.
The best-selling game, well, one of the best-selling games of all time around the time was Candy Crush and Minecraft.
Well,
Around the same
I
period
love
that he's complaining about. This is what
That's
I mean, is that it's such a skewed view to try and give a general perspective on gaming whilst not being equipped to talk about it.
I'm just trying to grasp where he's going with this, because I would argue, yes, there's more games today. There's more genres today. We have the current stuff. Someone makes something new. That's fair. But
we have more games now after more games came out because more time has passed.
yeah, but that's about it. Because we can go back 20 years. There was plenty of genres. I mean, yes, we're spoiled today, but it wasn't like we were in a desert or something.
Oh no, 90s were amazing.
90s were amazing. So were 2000s with PlayStation. So
Constantly, new stuff came out. New genres were invented.
new mechanics came out. RPG sort of dominated all the other all these genres. Then they incorporated those mechanics. It's like, Like, I don't get it. If anything, gaming was adapting everything. It was cannibalizing itself and becoming like the other game over there. And all of a sudden, we have RTS mechanics and
every game has stealth mechanics somewhere.
something like there was always a stealth feature in some story-driven game, and then
I tried genre mixes, and some just didn't work, and it was hilarious.
then you had like voice acting in games that you didn't even know they were going to have it.
They completely shoehorned in multiple endings just to say, "Oh, you have some choices."
Yeah, exactly. It's like these games.
And basing your entire series off of the consequences.
Well,
Yeah, have you ever? This is just in the past years occurring to me that try to tell a kid today that not so long ago, when there was dialogue between characters in a video game, you had to read text.
yeah, there was no voice acting, there was no lip sync, there was no cutscene, there was nothing.
Because it takes up too much space.
Yeah.
We didn't have the space.
Anyway,
I think he might mean more about mainstream attention in terms of like more variety in the gaming, because
Again,
it was always the indie scene, but
I don't know.
the mainstream over here didn't really touch platformers for a long time.
My
And
main point isn't that it's not inherently that he's wrong. It's that his fucking video is already bloated enough.
Side question: Was Breath of the Wild at a distant really that basic in graphics?
it was on the Switch.
Which one? The first
What
or
else
the
did you
fourth?
play it?
Was the whole series on the Switch?
There's only one Breath of the Wild.
There's only one.
Oh,
Breath
sorry, I
Wild.
thought you meant Breath of Fire.
No,
Oh.
no. The screenshot we're currently seeing.
yes. Okay.
And like, huh? That looks so flat.
All right. Well,
Was it like that when I played it?
I hope he gets to his point, because we're like speculating what the heck is he talking about.
He's got multiple. He's got like 6, I think. So
All right.
number one.
In the last years, the variety in gaming has gone way up, especially with the indie scene being more mainstream. Hell, in the last 7 years, there has been 2 Ratchet & Clank games, both of which were bestsellers, and Crash Bandicoot was revived from the dead and got 3 games. Soon
Something sounds really wrong when you're hearing the indie scene became mainstream.
Then there's no indie scene anymore.
I think that just because he means he's talking about platformers specifically. So like,
You gotta dig
platformers
for the
became
indie
more
stuff.
indie.
Yeah, is Braid from indie becoming mainstream because it sold a lot as a platformer? I don't think so.
Bestsellers.
Oh, Drunk Mumble reminds me that Breath of the Wild also came out on the Wii U.
Did it really?
Yeah,
You
I
guys
remember.
Didn't know?
What?
You guys didn't know?
I thought
No,
the Wii U
I
was
think-
dead.
Oh,
think I remember-
That
I
was
think-
the selling point. That is was Smash 4? I think it was Smash 4.
I'm pretty sure I remember seeing those cases at GameStop.
It's like the only
And that
thing
might have
that's
just been the Wii U version. That's why it looked like ass.
All right. Well, let's get back to the video.
It will be my headcanon now. Headcanon is allowed now, I heard.
But after his death in the late 2000s, Spy the franchise's core DNA back after years of using the IP as a face to sell other things. So with that being said, it's clearly not that there isn't enough variety in games like there were when these games were coming out. You just want Sly to get the endless supply of sequels that Mario gets, when I just don't think all franchises are created equal. Sly just doesn't have the endless shelf life that Mario does, the price to pay in telling an ongoing story. This is what I was going to talk about in last week's video, but I decided to cut it and save it for this video. So having said that, next case. 2. An inability to engage
What?
with new and old...
What was
What?
the
What
was the
odd
point?
statement?
Sly doesn't have the shelf life.
so
What
because,
do you have
What did this have to do with toxicity?
so because certain franchises don't have the staying power of Mario, we don't like modernity?
What?
What a nonsense statement! What a nonsense piece! In it, what
It's
is
'cause-
6 parts? On this video is like 6 chapters, quote unquote.
Gummy
I
keeps
think that-
going.
Well,
Yeah, he wasted the first one, got 5 shots left in his revolver.
Well, let's
Let's see if
just
he hits a bullet.
stop here and read this, because this is pretty much the same point as before. The inability to engage with new and old media without it becoming a compare. Dude, anytime you put food in your mouth, you're comparing that to the food you put in your mouth yesterday, even if it's different food.
Because it could be bad, you know?
This is normal.
Then you get diarrhea.
I'm playing the next Mario game. Well, I guess I'm not going to compare it to any other experience in my life ever. That would be silly. Why would I do that? It's a brand new experience, guys. I'm a tabula rasa. Life is about experience. Everything's new to me. Like, dude.
Oh, boy. So you want me to bring up the example that I immediately thought of when he said 80s remakes? What I immediately think of is the Who Goes There, which was a short story, which then got turned into a movie that has nothing to do with it, with an alien from outer space, which then got a remake called The Thing, and the creators of the movie version adaptation of the short story hated The Thing. They called it gratuitous porn.
Yeah. To be fair to the original movie, I don't think they had the tech to really adapt the monster right at the time.
That's not an excuse for lambasting something that is superior to your own work.
Well, it's the same.
Gore.
It's the same idea with like Starship Troopers. It was adapted in a certain way to appeal to a certain audience, even if 80% of it was very close. But the message and the themes and everything else was satirized, which was never part of the book. But it worked, so you could sell things in different lights. That's totally fine. I don't think that's the issue here. But to go back to his point, I don't think that this is a problem. I think this is what you're supposed to do. This is like when you play God of War 2 or God of War Ragnarok. You compare it to the previous game. You go, oh yeah, what is this like? Is it better? Is it worse? Does it add new stuff? Is it rush job? Like, what is it? So
could this point here, doesn't it just mean he could just have said, judge it by its own merits? Is that basically what? That's
totally fair, but you still have to compare it to something. You can't just say it's in its own little universe. That's not how sequels work. That's not how video game companies work. That's not how new games work. When you make a new game, I'm going to do what? I'm going to do the next Metal Gear Solid sneaking stealth game. Okay, we're going to compare it to that. And if you're not, then what the hell are you doing? You can't just make something that no one's ever heard of. Someone out there is going to play your new game, what you think is the newest, greatest shit. You're going to say, oh, this is like 1998's this, and reminds me 2004's that. And you're like, oh, I didn't know that. Maybe I should have done my homework and research what made those games great so that I could appeal to that audience, as opposed to, I'm in a bubble. I'm going to make this story about a bunch of sisters who run a dry cleaning service, and they get trapped in their dishwasher and transported to a magical fairy kingdom where they have to fight a bunch of, I don't know, flowers or something. It's like, whoa, have you ever heard of Super Mario? Forspoken? I don't think it's the same as Forspoken.
I don't know, why did he word the point like this? It just seems too long when he could have just said.
I found it, so, sorry. Tyler. My point about The Thing was that originally you had Who Goes There, the short story from 38. Then you got The Thing from Another World from 52. Then you got The Thing in 82. And the creators and many populace that watched the 82 movie, The Thing, the one we think of, hated it. They hated the guts out of it. That was
it wasn't just the critics. Everyone hated it at the time.
Yeah, that's not wrong to do so. Both, whether that's out of nostalgia or because they genuinely didn't like how it was at the time, that doesn't matter. People can hate something based on it being nostalgia for something they loved in the past, sure. But most importantly, usually, and this is why I bring up The Thing, usually, if this is shit, like if your game or movie shit, people will call it shit. I bring up The Thing because that was the exception to the rule. That was an excellent movie that was shit on for the norms at the time, preventing people from going actually enjoying what the movie's doing.
Yeah, this is why we all, as you said, I think you mentioned the Terminator movies, that why we just disregard After 2, because they were so good.
That was Mike.
That was Mike? Yeah. After 2, it's like, why bother? Can you top 2? You probably couldn't even come close. They never did. In fact, they got even worse than 1.
Yeah, for me, it's the thing with Terminator. It's like Terminator 1, great. Terminator 2 seems like a great end for that story. And then Terminator 3 is like, oh, by the way, just kidding. You can't alter the future. It's what's set in stone, set in stone. Then the 4th one's the future timeline. And then...
What's Salvation?
It's Salvation. And the 5th one gets even more wibbly wobbly with its bullshit.
Salvation? What Salvation?
Yeah, but
Salvation franchise? Yeah, that didn't.
Genesis is just they purposely sabotage themselves in order to constantly win.
Yeah, but that's the thing with this point is that even if we take away the continuity, we take away the history, all the lineage of Terminator, and we look at Terminator 3, 4, and 5 as standalone films or whatever, as pieces of media, they're crap. They're not that good at best. So if that's what he's trying to say, then great, but that doesn't stop people from using Terminator with its full lore and history and going, what the hell is going on? This is crap. This is even worse than crap.
And then Terminator Dark Fate's even worse because it puts you in the thing of either you get the timeline with Genesis where John Connor becomes the bad guy, or you get the Dark Fate timeline where John Connor just dies. Just there's no...
Right.
All right.
I'm just still hung up on his claim that there was a time when there were no platformers coming out. What?
Wait, to wrap up my...
Nintendo's main gig is platformers. There were always Kirby games, Yoshi games, Mario games.
Metroid Prime came out 2000s, yeah.
He's pointing to very specific franchises.
Prime's not a platformer.
It is a platformer, come on.
In a way, yeah, it's a 3D platformer. I think when he says platformer, he probably just... No,
yeah, 2D probably.
2D can't no, because Mario does 3D
Mascot platformer.
Mascot.
That's kind of what people called them.
I have to see the sprite on my screen. It's okay.
I think what confuses me is that it's that Metroid Prime is first person. That's why I'm not registering it as a platformer.
That's fine. That's okay. Anyway.
And to wrap up my point on this statement on the screen, if he's using the same criteria for Sly Cooper 1, 2, 3, and people shitting on 4 because they basically deletes any achievement you gain in 3 by getting the gang back together, when it's very clear in 3, there's time to move on. Legacy is not important compared to just enjoying life. Because the legacy is going to drag you down, which is what happened to Sly's ancestors. They have this huge vault in 3, which the whole point of the game is getting here. And it's this decrepit, dangerous, paranoid place. It's such a fortress in and of itself, just filled with pointless trinkets and gold. Not making anyone happy.
And the fact that the main villain has been driven to madness over time, all because he wanted the money.
And even when the entire place is crumbling around him, he would rather die with the gold than let it go and live an actual life.
It's pretty tragic for him.
It's incredibly tragic, wrapped up with their comic book style, so it doesn't get too heavy. And then Sly 4 comes out and goes, "Psych! We're doing time travel now."
Just fucking Sly 3 is you basically see what would happen if Bentley went insane to no return. Or at least semi-return right near the end. He has one brief moment of clarity, but then he just goes back to insanity.
Yeah, and Drunken Mumble, yes, you are correct. The thing that Metroid Prime doesn't automatically register in my head as a platformer is because that's mainly standard ego shooter gameplay. If you play Unreal Tournament, Quake, then yeah, you jump around on platforms all the time. But you don't classify it as a platformer first. You classify it as an ego shooter first.
All right, let's keep going.
Doing old media without it becoming a vapid comparison. Scroll down to the comments on any music video predating the year 2010, and I guarantee you, odds increasing with each decade you go back, you'll see a ton of comments that are saying, Yeah, this is the real music, unlike that evil new stuff. As if we just reached this crosswalk of doom where everything suddenly became bad. When I talked about the 2003 TMNT series, you'll notice that I focused exclusively on what I liked about the show itself and the things that made it good. Also focusing on things it did differently than previous versions, oftentimes, in my opinion, improvements on what came before, because when researching it, those were the areas the team was trying to do well when conceptualizing it, and that's something I wanted to highlight. But then in the discourse surrounding it, I see a lot of kids today have no idea the crap they're getting. These were the real turtles, this generation is too soft, and things of that nature. Here's the problem. Magically, every generation seems to believe that this happened, and they can't all be right, which leads to one obvious conclusion. The idea that there is a line to draw between things being good or bad, and a line between us all being tough and built different and going too soft simply doesn't exist.
What is he talking about?
Okay, what he's referring to is youngsters don't respect their elders. They don't bow when they enter the classroom anymore.
To cartoons?
From 2000 BC, yes. He's saying that is the toxic side. What we were talking about...
Isn't that what Aristotle complained about?
Yes, it is.
I mean, the thing with the 90s cartoon, the Turtles, it was more commercial friendly than it was fan friendly, per se. I mean, for Christ's sake, they made Baxter Stockman not Baxter Stockman.
They made him white!
It's like, if that, with a double toasted video, by their dumbass logic, then Baxter Stockman being white in the 90s cartoon was A-okay.
I have these comments though. They talk about soft. I don't know anything about the newer turtles. Are they just talking about like the content of the episodes? Like it's dealing with not serious topics.
The 90s cartoon was not very dark.
2003 was edgy as hell.
Yes, and I loved it.
It was so good.
I think I agree. I think his video on that show is that it's the best TMNT show.
I mean, the one character I felt bad in that show was this little nano robot called Nano. Like, holy shit, that poor thing.
Is that the one that collectivized metal?
Uh-huh, the thing that saw the criminal as a father.
That was like my childhood encounter with sad robot stuff. That was fucking depressing.
Like the most traumatizing scene in his first appearance is when Donatello drops him into the lava thing, or what's it called? I think it was either the criminal tried to stop Donatello, and he inadvertently made it worse, and the last words you hear from the thing is, "Daddy!" It's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and what he says at his return is, as the turtles are standing around his dying corpse, he goes, family.
Okay.
Jesus
So
Christ.
So the point here is the 2000s Ninja Turtles was a bit more mature, and the 90s Ninja Turtles wasn't. And people are commenting on the 2000s being a little bit more edgy, a little more hardcore. And he's like, no. It's always the other generation. It's like, well, no, it nothing to do with generations. It's just the content of the story.
I think the comments are on the screen are about like the newest TV shows, not the 9.
Oh yeah.
No, the bottom one says 90s and 2000s. So this is
Like saying both of them were like they were more mature.
That currently we have a dip in what is it? What is the term that the left loves? Resilience in children. And that's because they are too coddled. That's peaking right now. We are seeing the pendulum slowly swinging back. It will take more time until you notice this at large, because these changes back they or in any direction they always start very slow, and it's just dips here and there, and then it suddenly accelerates, and it's there, and it's happening, and it's over, and now we're on the other side of it. That can happen once this phase begins. That can happen like in a month, a week, or even a few days. But the way there starts very, very slow.
Also, Karen is making a very interesting point. Is that it's the old. He says that I don't like negativity, which I don't think is inherently his point. Granted. But he does point out that old people being nostalgic about the good old times meme, and how the argument is usually, old people dumb. There's a quite a lot of nuance in this discussion. So that's why I usually don't see it as a productive thing shit on either side of the spectrum here.
He's kind of going down the middle, being like, "No, you both are right. Both the old and new are good." Is kind of, I guess.
He's generalizing. He's generalizing too much. I want him to get to why this isn't a problem or an issue that we shouldn't be doing, or whatever the second point was. I forget.
Second point was basically, why can't you just consume the new stuff without automatically comparing it to the older stuff?
Yeah, I don't see that's a problem. But anyway, let's see what he has to say. Keep going.
For something old, which leads to problem 3.
All right.
Yeah, but
What?
I'm right. This is basically what it's like when you bring up the fact that 80s Turtles fans thought the exact same thing regarding the 2000s.
What?
So that was
That
the
was a
point.
non-point.
Look at these comments. I disagree. Okay. Here's the third point.
I'm right.
It's,
Is this the dark side of nostalgia? Is this when nostalgia becomes toxic? Is when you say I'm right?
This is when you're not smart enough to understand the topic you're trying to discuss, and you just reference comments and you say that's dumb, and you keep going.
it's just like, oh, every new generation, every older generation would be like, my stuff was better than yours.
Or something like that, I guess.
That is just a statement of nostalgia.
I'm not gonna consume the new shit because my stuff
Nostalgia
was better.
becomes toxic when you say I'm right. Imagine needing to catch a predator and he goes, "So, you're a predator, Mr. Stockman." I'm right.
Yeah, but I'm
Aren't
right.
And it's like, well, I'm not a pedophile. Yes, you are. I'm right. I caught you trying to get the girl. Oh, now you're being toxic, Mr. Hunter. Oh, right. I'm sorry. I'm in the wrong.
Is Murasan in the chat? That's the way to go.
I'm right. I am.
This is just dumb, but we're gonna keep going to see what I want to see what his other points are, because these are so silly.
Series that those fans. The show was too dark, too emo. Not the real Turtles.
You ever
What's
seen the originals?
What's the difference?
The
You're right.
original
Why
Mirage
is the
comic.
older generation
Yeah.
wrong? It's the exact same argument. This is why I try to remain as consistent as possible. For example, in my Turtles Forever review, I criticized the depictions of the 1987 Turtles because it was not an accurate representation of what the show was like. It was a parody of them disguised as a tribute. I was born in 2000, so obviously I have no strong connection to the original cartoon, especially in comparison to the 2003 series, so as a fan of that, I also had issues with Turtles Forever. But I remember someone saying to me that they weren't bothered by the 80s team being poorly represented because there's been enough 80s nostalgia or something, and I'm thinking, that's just not being consistent, because if we're going to be upset by the things we like are poorly represented, then all things being poorly represented are worthy of criticism. No greater
Yes.
example
Everything's
of this
worthy
kind
of
thinking than
criticism.
in Star Wars.
Here we go.
Oh boy, here we go. But for his point
No,
about
everything is deserving of criticism. Criticism is not a just negative word, just as quality is not a purely positive word. These are, first and foremost, neutral words. They're just usually associated in one of these two directions. But criticism can be positive. Quality can be negative.
Yeah, what he said about the representation of the older Turtles, he's saying that people didn't care that it was like they were given modern treatment because, oh, we have the old stuff anyway that represents them, right? And he was like, nah, you should still criticize it.
I just find it a ridiculous statement to go, oh yeah, it's like the Turtles in time. They misrepresented the old ones. Shouldn't they be nostalgic for the old ones too? Since usually the people working in animation are like in the 50s and 60s.
Well, there's plenty of episodes of animated cartoons, like with Batman, they have the Grey Ghost episode where they pay homage to, was it Adam West who played the Grey Ghost?
Yeah, it was kind of twofold. It was paying homage to Adam West Batman as well as paying homage to the Shadow.
Oh yeah. So there's ways to do that works well, and I guess it's different with Turtles because there's so many iterations, and the 80s and 90s version was different than the 2000s. So I don't see what's wrong with that. It's all in good nature. It's all in good fun. It's all for fans. And if you're a fan of the 2000s, not a fan of the 90s, well, here, great, you get a crossover. Good for the creators.
That movie, Turtles Forever, there's probably I'm trying to think of other examples, but I'd say it's the one movie that I've seen that does a multiverse plot that is not shit.
I think the Mirage versions show up in that movie.
Yes, that's the final conclusion. They are, because may I spoil?
Sure.
Okay, you have a warning here. The plot is the villain from the Shredder from the 2003 Turtles. He wants to erase the Turtles as a whole. He gets access to the Technodrome, because that ends up in his dimension somehow. And with its technology, he analyzes the turtles that he captured and figures out, oh shit, if I want to get rid of all the turtles, I need to destroy all turtles in all universes that exist in the entire multiverse. And in order to do that, I need to find the original, the prime turtles. When I do that, all the turtles will be gone. So he travels to the prime universe of the turtles, which is the Mirage Turtles, and tries to destroy them. Problem is, that would destroy the entire Turtles franchise, including himself.
But that's perfect setup, because Shredder from 2003 is such a petty bitch. He would absolutely wipe himself out just to spite the turtles.
Yes, he eventually he gets scared for a moment that he's actually destroying everything, including himself. Lets go of the turtles, and then realizes, no, it's worth it. I hate the turtles too much. I'd rather die.
Oh, I fucking love 2003 Shredder. I can just imagine him having the Technodrome pop out next to him while he's stuck on a rock somewhere.
And then he upgrades it because he says the technology is silly and shit.
Oh,
it's higher level, but it's silly.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then he switches out the CRTs for flat screens and shit. It's great.
All right. Anyway, let's hear him talk about Star Wars. Here we go.
Oh boy.
The Disney age of criticized a kingdom come for destroying the IP beyond recognition. I can't help but get deja vu from when, before that, the prequels were the most hated thing in pop culture history.
You are a lying sack of shit. That didn't happen. You're thinking about Plinkett.
Yeah, he missed the point. The prequels weren't hated. We were just kind of laughing about the goofiness. The thing is, the prequels, they didn't destroy Star Wars.
People were still watching the prequels.
Yeah.
There was a ton of.
They were enjoyable. They were full of memes. They were meme mines.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're disappointed they're not as good as the originals, but it was still Star Wars, and it was like, oh yeah, it's just fun to watch.
Yeah,
the Star Wars was still super popular, and like all the extended stuff, like the video games and TV shows, were going super strong.
Yeah. The prequels may have been a bit odd, but they didn't damage Star Wars.
Remember,
the sequels damaged it beyond recognition because they retcon shit, and they destroyed characters beyond recognition in the hopes to replace them with crap, which somehow didn't work. I wonder why.
Now, the one that always comes to my mind is, remember Star Wars 1313?
No.
That canceled Star Wars game? They got so hyped
up that
was gonna be Boba Fett.
I would love a Boba Fett solo game.
Yeah, that was gonna be a Boba Fett game on Coruscant, and it was so fucking cool because you got to explore the rest of Coruscant, a planet from the prequels.
Mm-hmm.
And when Star Wars Episode 7 came out, the first thing everyone worried about was, did they blow up Coruscant, the prequel planet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just got a question. I was too young to know what the how people saw it when it came out. I saw 3 in theaters, but I really don't remember how people viewed it at the time they came out, if they saw it as good or bad. I just know, like, then the Plinkett, everyone was like, "Oh man, people suck," when the Plinkett videos
Like,
got really
first,
big.
it leaves an impression at you. The Obi-Wan fight leaves a positive impression because it is well choreographed. It has tension. It's just very long. And where it falls apart, where it definitely falls apart, is the final scene where Vader steps off the thing and goes, "No!" And it's just goofy. It's just goofy nonsense. It's cringe.
Yeah, I remember at the time, at least with the third movie, people liked the third movie when it came out.
Out of all the others, that was the best, but it also had a lot of bad moments.
Yeah, the movies were not beyond criticism for anyone.
Also, Saren, it's fair that you think that the prequels went into too much detail and stuff. They didn't need to go into detail stuff. Problem really is that he's making a statement that people hated the prequels, as if the people that watched Star Wars just decided that at the time oh, this thing bad.
It's more like oh, the prequels were okay, they're there, but so what?
All right. Here's a donation and a super chat to go through. Here's Turmoil. Wisp, how can good quality be negative? I could answer that, but go ahead, Wisp.
Because I said quality. Quality is neutral. There can be good quality and there can be bad quality. If something is of bad quality, you tend to not want it.
Yeah, you could also measure quality in terms of, well, I assume everything to be excellent, and then as you go down the list of your criteria, you hit good quality. So there are some.
Furthermore, quality is not just good or bad. Quality can be of completely different measures. Like materials are of different qualities, like different elements in the periodic table. They have different qualities. That is not just good or bad. That is how they behave, how they structurally function, what magic effects they have.
We talk about cuts of meat, for example. We have Canadian Prime, which is stupidly expensive. We have Select, which is the bottom. They have like AAA, which is really good. And all these other grades in between. Japan, Europe, they have their own grades of quality. So it is a quality of a thing. And it's not necessarily good or bad. It's just that is exactly the style and cut of beef that you're getting for that price point. So it's neither good nor bad. It could be bad in comparison to higher quality beef, but it's what you're paying for. It's its own properties. Gingaman, here we go. One more. What am I reading here? Okay. If anything, the Star Wars prequel trilogy can be argued to be a necessary evil that kept Star Wars going strong alongside the extended universe and the video games. You could see that's what Lucas was doing. He wanted to make another, extension of what worked out in the 80s for him. So that's fair, but he had other plans as well for the sequels. So it didn't turn out exactly the way he wanted.
But things like Coruscant we've seen before in the games. Like aside from if you read any books or something, but in the game TIE Fighter, you have several cutscenes on Coruscant between the Emperor and Thrawn.
There was no movie content.
What?
There wasn't movie content.
Yeah, that wasn't movie content, but it was before Lucas made his movie in which we had Coruscant proper.
Yes. Meaning that we knew fucking nothing about Coruscant from the man that created Star Wars.
All right. Anyway, let's continue on with the video. I'm trying to remember what he says because we kept getting sidetracked here.
He's trying to make the point of, people back then said this too, I think.
Yeah, but not every critic was as sensitive as some of us are. Like, if you just watch it for what it's worth, it's just a space opera that's goofy and fun for kids, and then you compare it to what comes later, and you're like, wow, compared to what we got, the sequels were horrible. So
I will say prequels were worth having just to get the Battlefront games and the Clone Wars show.
Gingaman, why are you telling me that? I told you to play the game.
All right. Anyway, let's go.
I mean the most hated Star Wars thing, I mean the most hated thing in pop culture history.
Is Jar Jar lame?
In fact, if you turn the clock back 11 years, Disney's buyout of Lucas.
I'm pretty sure there are elements in the sequel movies that top Jar Jar.
Wow, people
Yes.
didn't like Jar Jar. What a biting point, my friend.
Jar Jar at least did not destroy the Star Wars universe, unlike Holdo.
What is?
Yeah.
I don't want to reread what I just read an hour ago about Anakin and how he kills Mace. It is not the Jedi
They
way.
hate him.
Yeah.
They hate. Then the people who made the sequels hated Jar Jar so much they reduced him to a street performer.
I think he is misguided on that point because, I mean, it was basically the Plinkett stuff that made everyone be like, "Oh, we all hate this," right? It's like he brings up Batman Beyond, and that's like, oh, some other media was making fun of the prequels. That means everyone hated it at the time.
Also something you can make fun of very, very easily.
Yeah, it's popular. Everyone knows about it. It's not
Does
anything
this
to
mean-
write home about in
It's
terms
like-
of dialogue. So there's lots of bad.
It's like
But
yeah,
it's
like you enjoy a B movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's a space opera for kids. It's big. It's fun. Explosives. It's kind of exciting. You can go get some popcorn and chill out and let your brain rot. It's fun.
This is.
And
This
while
is
being
like-
a space opera for kids, it made more sense than the sequels.
This is like bringing up fucking Robot Chicken, making fun of the bad motivator.
In the
Star
original,
Wars.
yeah.
Yeah, as a point that, oh yeah, people don't like, they hated the original trilogy.
Oh yeah, everyone used to make
Despised it.
fun of this.
Yeah, remember
Nope.
remember the stormtroopers that couldn't see Obi-Wan? The blind stormtroopers? Or how Chewie didn't get a medal? Oh, people must have hated the
Yeah,
originals.
making comedy is not for whom is making comedy rooted in hate? What horrible creature are you?
All right.
Because it's like a Lucas thing. It's kind of just reminded me,
Ah.
like when it's like, oh, they made fun of Jar Jar. People made fun of certain aspects of Indiana Jones from the beginning.
Sarah
That's
brings,
still-
up brings up a fantastic point. The way Boba Fett went down to Ritual was made fun of as well. In his own storyline, they retconned it. So there's a jetpack, well, retconned, quote, quote. We don't know if his backpack worked after Luke slashed it. But it's the jetpack that gets him out the mouth of the Starlight Pit.
Anyway, let's keep going.
This film celebrated as people thought the prequel era of Star Wars was that bad. Yeah, but the people who were mad at the prequels were wrong, though. I am right in hating the new stuff. And look, my point isn't even that one is better than the other. I think The Rise of Skywalker is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. The kind of movie that I felt a
some sense.
profound sense of embarrassment while watching. The one time that I did, that is. But my point is, can't there be some kind of middle ground between one side being the worst thing ever and the other being the same? Or one side being amazing 10 out of 10 in hindsight and the other is just the worst?
Didn't we just say that?
Can't you have standards? Can't you have actual understanding of film and storytelling and all kinds of other elements of storytelling? Like what is... There's no nuance? You don't have intelligence? You don't have history? Like
I think he's just projecting his own black and white thinking.
Yeah, but his previous point was like, let's judge it for what it's worth. It's like, yeah, we could do that, and we could compare it to other things as well. We're very good at feigning ignorance at one point and then understanding where something's coming from. Technology, time of day was made, and what was happening during the era. That's not hard to do. If you're talking about fans online screaming at each other, no, obviously that's not a very good way of measuring things.
Yeah, I think he's talking from the standpoint of the communities he's been in, and he mentioned it earlier. He's been in a ton of these fan-based communities.
Yeah, but
seeing the
Get
same
away
content.
from the 13-year-olds.
Who would ever use YouTube comment section as a basis for quality? Like, that's retarded.
Him.
Oh, my commenters on YouTube don't like me. It's like, wow.
Hasn't
Oh,
everything
my
he's
God.
been using for reference been YouTube comments?
That and Twitter.
Wait till you get
showed
to
us
Twitter.
right at
Wait till you get to Reddit. Wait till you get to all these other forums.
He did that for his over his Code Veronica thing, where people were calling out, "Hey, you don't seem to be doing this thing right,"
Oh, really?
and he's getting all bitchy about it.
Boo-hoo.
Was it a dodging?
The critics
the
are
dodging.
the critics are
the
coming for me.
item.
What will I do, dude? You just made an opinion. What do you think
Yeah,
is going to happen?
survival horror. You're supposed to manage your inventory so you don't have nothing by the end.
You're supposed to not be a dumbass. Oh my god, how dare you say...
Wasn't his point at the beginning like there should be nuance to this discussion?
Yeah, that's kind of the point. I remember before I went to YouTube, I was at the forums and Bioware, and I was arguing for months, pretty much the same points. I just got fed up and went somewhere else and got it all off my chest, and that was that. And those guys, I'm still, before the BSN closed down, we're still there saying exactly the same shit. It's amazing. I love the game. Blah blah blah. Bioware can do no wrong. Yada yada yada. It's like, well, they can do very much wrong, as we've seen in the past, well, what is it, 13 years now? Almost?
Yeah, it's kind of why the Sly 4 thing was context to bring up, because got into a lot of arguments in that community over it.
Yeah, and that's great, but you don't just start changing the way you do things. You have a standard. You understand why you have the standard. It's almost set in stone. Yeah, some parts are a little more flexible than others, but some are pretty much, you have your storytelling standard, you have your genre standard, you have your content standard, you have your characterizations and what that actually is within the frame of a certain genre. It's like, that's it. And you compare it to you compare all the sci-fi and all the science fiction and all the other genre pieces to each other. Mm-hmm. And that's how you learn. And I know horror, I know romance, I know mystery. It's like, good. I can pull from that and know why Edgar Allan Poe is bad at certain things but good in horror, or how Arthur Conan Doyle is great at mystery but not so good at horror, or whatever the case is. It's not hard. You just read and you watch and you listen, you write stuff down.
I think Terran Art in the chat nails it. He says, bring back the term fan base. Community is for people that want everyone to be friends with everyone.
Yes,
maybe. I would argue.
I also keep saying that they renamed everything, every demographic as well, a community, because a community you can control, you can claim to speak for it, and you can ostracize people from. Yeah. You cannot ostracize people from a demographic. And you cannot really ostracize people from a fan base, because a fan will be a fan whether he has friends or not.
Yeah, and a fan will know better, especially when you're talking about whatever franchise they've played or watched or read for decades. And it's that sort of lore expert. Like we could have gone into detail of why the prequels were good or bad at all these per minute scenes of this idea or this CGI or this joke or this character. You can do that. It's entertaining because you like the show. It's like the same with Mass Effect. I like it. I like playing Mass Effect. There are some really stupid scenes, some really stupid gameplay, some really stupid characters, really stupid plot points. They're just so unbelievably bad. I can't believe how dumb they are. And they're contrived, and if you don't see them coming or after the fact, then I don't know. I can't help you learn. There's nothing I can do. You're going to be a fanboy, and you're going to love your fandom as much as you can, and it doesn't matter what I say. So if we don't have these critics come in and say, hey, let me like curb your enthusiasm there for like 2 seconds so you can use your brain in a genre called science fiction where you're supposed to. And if you don't want to do that, then I can't, like, you have to take a step back and say, these people are not for me. These critics or these commenters in YouTube or wherever are not going to learn anything, and you're not going to learn anything from them. If you have no middle ground, there's no communication. So I don't know what this guy is trying to do here with this video. And I don't know what he's trying to do with his YouTube, but it seems like he's just placating everyone. He's like, oh, I didn't mean to say that. Let me try it this way. Oh, I didn't mean to say that. Let me try a third time. Like, it's not conductive.
If this is his better video on this topic, then I don't want to see the worst one.
He's going to make a second one, I bet. He's going to make a third one.
Oh, is this the first one off this line?
Probably.
Well, it's kind of connected to his, I think, a few others, but he's trying to like cover a different topic.
Yeah, he's so frustrated by the fans because he made all those other videos that he's like, oh.
If you see
his basic tip to get your points together better. Write your script down on paper by hand with a pen.
These guys?
Yeah, that slows down your thoughts and makes you process them more.
They're
and you
forced
will
to-
more likely say that what you're writing is utter garbage.
They're forced.
Because this off-the-cuff crap is crap.
They have to actually hurt their knuckles to apply pressure between a piece of wood and lead and go, oh my God, this is going to take me hours to write a script. How is this going to work? What if I make a mistake? It's like, maybe you should write well.
Yeah, that's right. This is the good thing about handwriting. It forces you to slow down.
Everyone types their scripts these days on YouTube.
And there's very little thinking involved in typing.
Well, if they just had a good...
Especially if you type fast.
If they have a
if
good...
you type fast, there's absolutely no thinking
Whisp,
involved.
your problem is different, but I mean, in terms of having an editor or lack thereof, if they just had a second person, a different eyeballs to look at to whatever your script was, and clean it up, fix the grammar if need be, whatever phonetics you use or jargon, that's it. And you could have a great script. It'll be... This video would have been 3 minutes if you had an editor. Because they would have said, this is crap. Don't even say that. This is like one sentence. That's not even a point. It's a platitude.
It's written.
Yeah, this is horrible.
But smart boy, that 3 minutes is way too short for the algorithm to catch up on it.
They could make a bunch of YouTube shorts for 59 seconds. They would be fine.
Also, Tyler, it's fine that you like the live war, especially for the gameplay. Microplays are almost purely rooted in this completely invalidates the previous game's achievements and the whole point of the third game.
Well, that's what he went in on when he reviewed it originally, and it got like... I think that might be why he makes the first point about rejecting modernity.
Yeah, that was still stupid.
But,
That was still stupid. I can't believe we have to even think that way.
Oh, just wait till I tell you that one fact.
Oh, you didn't drop it yet? I thought your other thing
I'm
was...
not dropping it yet. Not dropping it yet.
Can we just
Almost.
zip ahead?
Can't it be true? Appreciate in hindsight because of the fact that they told a coherent story with grand ideas applicable to the politics of the time that they were released and today, and other
Really?
interesting ideas.
You mean universal ideas?
The politics of the time. Can you tell me the galactic importance of what was happening in
Trade.
All those Bush parallels, man.
I don't know, man. What is he talking about? Is that Bush? Is that it? That's what Lucas was getting at?
No.
That
No.
damn... What?
No,
What?
the entire story of Palpatine seizing power of the Galactic Senate is a direct play on Hitler seizing power. That is the event that went before, because that story was already in the manual, in the introductory short story of the X-Wing and TIE Fighter games.
Wait. We're talking about the 90s, right? This is when Episode 1 came out?
Episode 1 came out at the end of the 90s.
Yeah.
1999.
Was that pertinent
Yes.
to Bill Clinton? I don't know.
Well, I think people said in hindsight that they saw some of the politics in the third one and second one related to like the Bush
Look,
years.
yeah, but that's because they're retarded. Because these things repeat throughout history. That's why taking the way, as neutral as it is held, and that's the credit we can give Lucas actually for the politics part of that. It is held so historically neutral that you can apply it to different events throughout history, not just the one it is inspired by.
All right. Well,
Which is the Hitler thing.
I try not to.
When he seized power, we call it that.
I don't-
That's just similar how he did it.
I try not to interpret Star Wars too hardly when it comes to real world politics. I try to turn my brain off and have a good time.
Oh, do with all due respect, do you take Lucas for the guy who can come up with a politically complex plot as Palpatine did it?
No,
Or
but
would you rather believe he was inspired by a real life historical event?
I think both can be true. You can be inspired, and he could have said, I don't know, the politics of George Bush. That could be a very, very true thing. But
Senior. George Bush Senior.
obviously, because
who seized power through democratic means by exploiting the democratic system?
whatever nuance,
And took over parliament and declared himself super guy of the thing.
Wisp,
We
no.
get it.
No, just because he's influenced by something doesn't mean that's what the story becomes about. He's just influenced to make a movie about politics. That's about it. You can have
Yeah,
any
but that
reason.
doesn't map onto
If you're interpreting the nuances of a galactic senate and the lack of depth in the first or second or third films for politics, I mean, you could go any direction you want. I wouldn't care, but I wouldn't even try. I would be like, this is for kids. This is fun. There's very little depth here, and all we have is imagery and nuance, which is very, very tiny. So I wouldn't even bother. But if you want to interpret that way, go right ahead. I don't care. It's not a big deal. So anyway,
using the historic terminology, but go ahead.
Let's keep going. Is there a Cole's Notes version of this? Because I don't want to go through another 10 minutes of this guy. Do you know the next?
I think his other points get more into the toxic side.
Really?
The last 2, 3.
All right, let's zoom through these. I'm going to speed up this.
No, let's keep going.
Keep
Let's
going.
just keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah, let's keep
We're
going.
making good progress.
Yeah.
Don't give up prematurely.
While also being incredibly dated visually and having really stilted dialogue and acting due to the script itself and the sterile environments it was shot in as a result of the revolutionary technology. While it is also true that the newer stuff had everything going for it in terms of mixing practical and special effects, all-star casting, and more believable acting, while also being one of the worst managed projects in film history, producing a completely incoherent story where each part of it is worse now that it's over. Can't it be true that good and bad things have been released in all these eras and decades, rather than one camp being all good or all bad? And that, no matter what side you fall on, sending death threats to the people who work on Star Wars is unacceptable garbage.
Don't care. This is irrelevant. There's nothing
irrelevant to the point.
You could talk about anything. It doesn't matter.
The people that did this weren't the fucking. This wasn't anything to do with nostalgia. You disingenuous fuckwaffle.
Oh, he brings up, or in a split second, you'll see the Reva thing. He'll pull the whole.
Why the hell? Why is this here? Why is this here? People weren't angry at him because he wasn't the what are the fucking bear people called?
The Gungans? The Gungans.
Ewok, thank you.
Oh, the Ewoks, okay.
Yeah, the Gungan is not an Ewok. That's not why people were angry. They were angry at him because he had a funny accent. That was at the time what people were fucking angry about. It wasn't the goddamn Star Wars fans going to his mailbox going, "Oh, I fucking hated your character. You should kill yourself."
Yeah. And last I checked, it wasn't the fans comparing Jar Jar to a black person. That was the thing.
Yeah. Anyway, this is nothing to do with the topic, so.
From the prequels, and freaks have continued this behavioral trend into the Disney era. You might wonder why.
No, they didn't do it with Moses Ingram. You're lying.
Divorced from all bias. Answer is, I really am not. Everyone is biased to some degree, but I'm speaking about this because I want to show off how these arguments lack nuance because of the fact that I myself was once as guilty of it as you could get. I remember when The Last of Us was revealed in December of 2011.
Yeah, there it is.
I was furious. Oh, great. Naughty Dog just wasted several years in that lame Uncharted instead of doing more Jak and Daxter. As if that wasn't bad enough, we're now getting another realistic shooter. Clearly, I was ahead of my time in the hating The Last of Us without having played it industry. As I continued that bias against the game even after becoming an Uncharted fan. Amazing
play
what
other
design can
games.
do for you.
It's like the read another book, just please play another fucking game.
How
Play
big is your
something
Steam
that-
library that you didn't touch things?
He only reviews Sony games though.
These are PlayStation exclusives.
Oh, the funnier thing with his
What
with
about
the
the
last
short Mega Man
thing,
games? They're not Sony stuff, are they?
oh, the funny part of him in The Last of Us is the whole. He'll never go back to like the old version of the thing. As soon as they made that remake for the PC, or that's the only thing he'll ever cover. So basically, anything that he sees from the remake that wasn't in the original, it's gonna bug with his memory. So every time he's gonna play the nostalgic toxic thing. Just remember the fact that he said he'll always go back to the PC version instead of the actual thing.
Well, this point ties into what he said about Sly Cooper, about how you guys they hated the newer stuff because they just want. Same people hate the newer stuff.
Oh, the fun fact about that is his buddy that Smud covered, Savo there, said the same thing. And you know the funnier thing? He wanted to make his own fan game of Sly 4, but fun fact, he didn't know how to make a game, didn't know how to treat his artists for the thing.
How to fund it.
That too, and the fact that, how do I put it, was willing to change a character from Sly 3, just make them out of character, because there's a character in Sly 3 that was willing to stay in prison if it meant keeping Sly safe, and he decided to make him the bad guy, all because he didn't read the comic. That ties into the third game.
Bruh.
And he acted the same thing up, but you guys would buy the thing if it was Sucker Punch making a new Sly game. You know, that kind of shitty
Well, didn't-
behavior.
Did he bring up how he had a problem with the 80s turtles in that special because he said they didn't represent the characters right?
Mm-hmm. And he's willing to but he's willing to be okay with that fan project. And he was on board with that fan game. I remember him in the trailer for his and Sabo's little thing for that.
All right. Well,
Looks like we got ourselves a bit of a hypocrite there.
And it's Seymour.
Major hypocrite.
he's trying
I
to.
want to see what he says about Last of Us.
Okay.
If he goes into that.
I still had a resentment against this game I never played, and now look at me. Ever since I played it in 2014, The Last of Us has remained my favorite game of all time, and now...
Play more games.
Of all time.
It's your favorite game, but you're playing the remaster or remake of remaster.
So wait a
That is
second.
sad.
He really
That
doesn't
is
like
so
a game
sad.
in theory. Then he tries it and he goes, "Oh my god, this is amazing." It's like, can't you say that about life in general, not just, trying stuff for a game? Can't you just look at life? Hey, I'm never going to go to Venice. I'm never going to go finish my whatever degree. I'm never going to go get this job I always wanted. It's like, well, is something stopping you? Do you have enough motivation? Are your tastes horrible and you realize, oh, I'm a moron? I
I'm
need
nostalgia blinded.
I need standards of some degree, regardless of my biases. This is sad. You're just showing me how pathetic you are. And, oh, I'm a kid. I'm a dumb idiot. It's like, yeah, you were. And maybe you should do that with your writing first, so you don't make dumb videos like this.
Okay, this is gonna be a low blow, but I find it kind of funny that this guy's favorite game is one in which the game plays itself for about 40% of it.
Hey, I'm glad he said Last of Us 1, not 2.
Can
Hey,
you say
don't you dish no what's the word I'm
This.
thing? Oh god, don't you diss Asura's Wrath because that plays itself most of the time.
No, you
Probably
have to play
90%.
No, you have to play almost every single cutscene.
I just think
You have to constantly
Yeah,
press
there are a
buttons.
few button presses, yes, but most is still running itself. Yes.
Anyway,
And it feels fucking great. Whereas The Last of Us is a
Yeah.
third-person, quote-unquote, survival action game.
you've
In
never
which you
seen it
Yes, you are
before.
right.
In which they
You are
only
right.
ever show you the cutscene.
I
They
just
don't
had
even look that good.
I know. I just had to bring it up.
You know I love Asaurus Rap. You don't need to test me like that.
all right.
8 years the HBO
Well,
series.
it had one
Franchise.
good game.
Franchises, so
It
you
was
like
good
the
for
second
one
one too,
game.
as well?
It was literally good for one game. Everything after is just trying to justify killing
Oh,
the main
no.
character from the first one.
I admit I liked the first one, but I wouldn't call it favorite ever.
My
Can't even
favorite
call it a
fran-
franchise. It's a train wreck after the first.
Favorite franchises. If you want to stay within your lane, you probably want to say something that has several good games under that belt that's maybe spread out or something that kept consistently improving.
Like
no, you
Sly.
said
Yes,
Yeah,
no
like Sly.
standards.
I could say
Yes,
that for
no.
Sly, but for Last of Us, no.
it had one
would-
good game.
I would be embarrassed if I was a fan of Last of Us. The funniest thing is, when this game first came out, I never got why people liked it. I just thought it was overhyped.
They
I
called
was
it the
one of those
Citizen
people- I was
Kane
the
of
rare
games.
people who did not give a shit about Last of Us, and the only reason I probably give a shit is why people want to go watch the version that butchers the thing that they love so much.
Does no one remember that? They called it the Citizen... Well, I think it was IGN. called it
Citizen
the-
Kane of
Yes.
What the hell?
Oh,
That was
No
real.
way.
I lived through that period where Angry Joe was saying that the only reason you dislike it is if you're an Xbox fanboy. Having
Xbox.
I scared about shooting him in the fucking face. I was there. I suffered the stupidity. Are you doing your part, citizen?
Well, I do remember when.
What is the Citizen Kane of video games?
Well, I remember, if you guys don't recall, a Time magazine called Mass Effect 2 The Avatar of video games. I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing.
Ooh.
Oh,
Did
that
it
is
really? What does that even mean?
That means technically impressive, fucking awful.
Would Mass Effect 2 was Mass Effect 2 even super like graphically impressive at the time?
Yes, it was an upgrade from the first, but people loved it. Like, it was a big seller. It came out on time, and it had a huge marketing campaign. They went with the Super
It
Bowl.
had a great marketing campaign.
Yeah, it was gigantic. So everything that they did was right, and it appealed to a mass audience. So it actually made a lot of money. So when people say, "Oh, it was like Avatar," I'm assuming at the time Avatar was a big popular a big popular movie, and that's how they thought of it.
I guess you could say at the time it had a massive effect on the players.
Oh God, that's.
People looked at Avatar like, wow, this is the best CGI ever. That's what I remember.
If anything would be called the Avatar of video games, I would suggest things like A Link to the Past.
I'd agree with Gingman saying that Crisis is the Avatar of gaming. It's a technical marvel. It's a technical marvel.
When you're trying to interpret a space opera, action adventure, weird romance-ish story, which doesn't have a lot of substance, but it's a lot of CGI and ambience and sort of art piece. You're like, okay, that's nice.
Are you starting Mass Effect or Avatar right now?
Well, Avatar, right? But when you try to compare that to like a story-driven game, like, that's not really much of a compliment. That's kind of you're missing the point there, sir. Anyway, that was just a lot of these old school journalists don't know what the hell they're talking about when it comes to video game art or video games in general, I guess. Anyway, let's keep going. Here's Mad Courier 6. Hey, sir, thanks for the other super chat. I'm not going to read it because you're just saying hello, but thank you anyway. Why do so many people write meandering, nonsensical scripts that are on topic only 5 to 10% of the time? I don't know.
Because they don't even know the word meandering.
They want to make a video. That's it. And they have to keep pumping out the videos, so they keep getting the algorithms, so they keep getting popular. That's it. This guy could have made a 2-minute video, it would have been fine. But his points would still be just
you
as
mean
bad.
the algorithm is moving people towards bad quality.
You have to keep making stuff. Yeah, and that stuff ends up being shit because quantity becomes less of quality.
Is that a thing now that people know about? Is like it has to be, if it's past a certain length, the algorithm picks it up?
Well,
that is the thing. That is one of the things why the quartering is rambling so much. Even though he picks up some interesting things as one of the first.
Yeah, this was known like 6 years ago, the 10-minute mark. You get proper AdSense or more AdSense, so more ads. And now it's a little different, but the issue is not how long it is anymore. It's how often. The more you release in a greater frequency, it gets you more popular. No matter how dumb you are, how stupid, how much you lie. And you can look at all of our critics that we criticize all the time and see how popular. Like this guy. This guy's over 140,000 subs. Why?
How?
Why? What makes this guy worthwhile? He's a
To
kid.
be fair, his actual gaming reviews are a fair bit better, I think, than when he goes off on these topics.
Yeah, on this one, I will defend him. I was keeping up with him till the release of this video, which was the point where I was like, okay, you lost the script.
When he just is focused on one game, he does better.
Yeah, all he has to do is talk to a bunch of friends for about 10 minutes, and you'll get, oh yeah, that's an interesting idea. I've never thought of that, because if this guy thought that The Last of Us was going to be a bad game without even trying it, and then he tries it and he goes, oh, this is my favorite game ever, that's pretty sad. That's really sad. Can you imagine you having such horrible taste, such horrible understanding of the thing you apparently love, whether it's food or media or whatever, and you go, oh, another boring book, just another fantasy with elves. It's like, no, it's Lord of the Rings, sir. Let's try it.
His point is like he used to hit all these points he's making here, like 1 to 6. He used to have all of that in his mind, he's saying, and then he actually tried the modern stuff, and he's like, oh, I'm wrong.
As for the other point, yes, Smud, I have met men in their 30s. How could you tell?
Okay. All right. Anyway, I want to see the other point because I'm losing it. Let's keep going.
The HBO absolute banger thus far, but I chose to hate it because I wasn't getting what I wanted, which goes back to issue 1 from a few minutes ago.
Let's be fair, this was a month ago. He didn't get to see the ending.
Fair point.
Of course, back that far, as one of my most popular videos pretty much is a back in my day kind of thing. Oh, and speaking of Sonic, issue 4, warping reality to suit your narrative.
Oh, do you really want to touch this subject?
Oh, this guy wants to talk about that one. The only game of Last of Us I'll go back to is the remake of the first one that tries to justify killing the main character. Okay.
All right.
And
Let's
makes
see
the
how he
game worse.
let's see how he defines this one. This is too generic for me, but fine.
The darkest is entrenched in an endless era war fighting to prove which decade of Sonic was the best. The most interesting thing to come out of this would be how many people are okay warping reality itself to make your opinions more valid. Here's how. I have gotten a shocking amount of pushback from 2000 Sonic fans every single time I say that Sega tanked the credibility of Sonic back in the 2000s with rushed games of varying degrees of compromised quality, and that Sonic Colors saved the series from those games and that generation cemented it. Only for Sega to kill it again with Rise of Lyric in 2014, but that's a separate problem. Thing is, for people who despise the 2010 Sonic with all their might, hearing Sonic Colors saved the series from the likes of Unleashed and Black Knight is enough to inspire comments about how Colors always sucked and ruined the series, sales tanking after Colors, yada yada yada, just nonsense. Also, a high amount of people have thought this meant I don't like Unleashed when they hear this without the full context. I never said that. I think Unleashed and Colors are both fun games for similar and different reasons. Look, the fact is, Unleashed and Black Knight were poorly received games. Sonic Colors was not that, and that is how Sonic Colors defined the next several years of Sonic. This is basic stuff. When we start working with the revisionism that Generations was actually a bad and damaging title, unlike Unleashed and Black Knight,
Those are
you've
YouTube
lost
comments,
me.
right?
The Sonic community
That was YouTube comment.
This is his idea of warping reality. A bunch of people with bad opinions.
Or he said they took him out of context, like they were
Yeah.
misrepresented his remark.
I'm sure every person took him out of his context because he's so nuanced and has so much information that he keeps changing his review every time. I'm sure. Oh.
Hey,
been trapped in things for ages, and the way to make it stop is to just hear different perspectives.
Wait, what did he say?
Spider-Man.
And damaging title, unlike Unleashed and Black Knight, the Sonic community has been trapped by cycles of things for ages, and the way to make it stop is to just hear different perspectives.
Just hear different perspectives, bro. They'll change your opinion, bro.
Just change. Just listen to other people. They'll tell you the right way to think. Your standards are irrelevant. They're malleable. This makes no difference.
Your standards are incredibly malleable. That's part of why we see people slurping up stuff that's pretty average after a deluge of shitty media.
Yeah, didn't he already have a point where it says we sort of are not liking modernity because it's all crap?
Yep.
Well, like it was more we're not liking the new thing because it's not made by the people that made the old thing we like.
So which one is it? We supposed to reject it, or we have our opinions changed by other critics that are smarter than you?
It was like he said because he said when we brought up Last of Us, his Last of Us point came back to point 1 because he was like that.
Yeah, but this just goes to show you shouldn't be a critic if you don't know what the hell you're talking about, and your opinions get changed all the time. One guy can throw away your argument with like a few YouTube comments, apparently. Or enough YouTube comments make you change your mind to make a second review of whatever.
Can I not say that the new comics are better than the old comics?
Sure.
Is that where we're at? Where is intergenerational hate for Sonic? If I say that the new comics are better than the old comics because Ken Pender's work is raw sewage?
Ken Penders.
I thought everyone hated Unleashed, but apparently it's alright.
I like it.
The guy doesn't have any standards, so he's supposed to judge anything.
Yeah, he could make another 6 more points and be like, yeah, I guess if you think that way, because you're going to change your mind in another month or so.
I mean,
the rest of the points should just be, I'm right.
I think the funnier thing with
saying?
What's his face, Ken Penders. What's the difference between modern writers and just being another Ken Penders who decided, I want to get into this franchise. I'm not going to play it, so I'm going to make all of it up in my head and claim it's better than the actual thing. Why are these people hating me? What did I do? I just wanted to make you happy.
Why are you booing me? I'm right.
Like that's the vibe I get.
That's what I wanted to say
Like,
earlier.
on par with Ken Pender.
I've never
Oh,
played a Sonic game except Night on the Wii.
Oh boy.
Well,
I just remember growing up, Sonic was that thing everyone was like, man, this series just makes terrible game after terrible game. Why do people like
all right. Here's Legacy. Hey, Legacy. How's it going? Yes, I will listen to Dan Slott when he says MCU She-Hulk is faithful to the OG. I need to listen to new perspectives.
I don't know how many times he has a Spider-Man rape fetish.
Oh, boy.
Like, ooh, boy.
Ooh, let's.
All right.
Fighting and gatekeeping as well. When I reviewed Sonic,
Gatekeep, girl boss, gatekeep.
Oh,
Sir,
is that-
what fan ring are you part of, sir? Why aren't you letting you inside anymore?
he's been a part of many communities, he said.
You're a part of
really
many
is
communities. You should be part of less communities, my good man.
I need to train myself now not to say
I'd be part of
community.
the Let's community and not the Play community. What a fucking dumbass term community has become.
I agree. Make fan base great again.
Indeed.
I went over the fact that some people in my comments have treated it like some kind of threat that the kids who grew up with the newer games I didn't like, such as Boom or Forces, were going to grow up and make their own videos, as if that's something I should be afraid of. I have a right to an opinion, and so do they. Life is far too short to spend it being angry that in 10 years someone will talk.
Press A to high five.
Press A to high. I need to see that.
So, yes, you have the freedom to an opinion. You have the right to an informed opinion, sir. Which,
As the founding fathers intended, you have the right to an opinion.
which apparently he doesn't get the first time through, so he has to do a little bit more homework and then talk to some people and then revise his ideas and then make 3 more videos on the same topic.
I would love to see him do his first initial review of the Statement of Independence, and then go, the founding fathers were all criminals. And then second was like, okay, maybe they had a point.
Or does anyone see, like, some people they watch, they will go back and change the title of the videos and put in parentheses old?
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's he does that.
Oh,
And
he doesn't want to
a
get
lot
rid
of
of it.
people that do that.
He doesn't want to get rid of it because he still makes money off it, and he's gonna keep making more reviews. It's just the same freaking. Like he's the nostalgia guy. He can't stop playing the old games. Oh, this game's the best.
It's just weird to me.
Grow up and make their should be afraid of. I have a right to an opinion, and so do they. Life is far too
Press
short to spend it
A
being angry that
or
in 10
press
years someone will talk
triangle
about why they like
to high
something I didn't.
five.
But in the comments, a couple people said something to the effect of, we end the cycle by not giving people who like a game as bad as Forces the platform to talk about it. Which is absolutely not what I was saying. My point was, obsessing over negativity was bad, and I don't care if people liked the game. I just didn't, and I had my reasons why. Entirely divorced from silly nostalgia wars. As most of the video was spent comparing it to Unleashed, Colors, and Generations, 2 of which I'm ideologically supposed to hate. Apparently.
Our
I'm
critique
not saying you
of
can't hold opinions
TLJ
different from the majority.
has nothing to do with nostalgia. Our critique of the sequel Star Wars movies, the alleged sequels, has nothing to do with nostalgia.
He said a lot of weird stuff in the past
Oh, it's
10
just,
seconds.
It's nostalgia if you don't like it when your characters change. It's nostalgia when the character that was originally, just nice, that maybe they were bad, but now they suddenly hate the main character. Now they want to do something that's even dumber than what the main character wants to do, and that's
He
just
said
fine now.
that his critiques of those Sonic games were not nostalgia based, and that he was referencing a comment that was saying it was.
He's arguing that you need to critique every single piece of media as if it's just on its own in isolation, which is why Toy Story 4 is good. Because if you don't know how Woody acts, then you don't mind the fact that he married an abusive asshole.
I hate Woody in Toy Story 4 because it's just he reverted back to Toy Story 1 Woody.
This is toxic nostalgia.
It's
you don't like
my
Star
bad.
If you think Sly Cooper is goated and
Why would you?
But it is goated. It's better than at least it doesn't. It only has like one game that fucking.
What great visual showing Ellie wearing the fucking
How
face.
dare you take that
The
shit
skinned-
off now?
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Ellie wearing the skinned face of the
Sly
Sly Cooper
Cooper.
franchise
I-
after butchering it.
just leaving the fucker in Egypt, and then it's just, yeah, at least it was one bad game compared to just, oh hey, here's one good game, then here's a bad game, then here's a cheap remaster of this thing.
Well,
Then here's
exactly. Here's a complete story. Oh, here's a sequel that does nothing to progress the story.
It's like, at least the Sly Cooper series, at least has like 3 good games and 1 bad one, instead of having, oh hey, here's a soulish cash grab on the series you love, you know?
I like both, being my 2 favorite games of all time. If you gave them all a fair and honest chance, then you can feel however you want. We can have a neutral.
Didn't you just like a moment ago say that Last of Us is your favorite game of all time, and now you're dragging in Sly Cooper 2 as being also your favorite game of all time? I don't think you know how this works.
Sly 2 is a better...
I think he doesn't understand what the word greatest means.
At least Sly 2
Among his top
has
10.
a better written plotline than fucking Last of Us 2, or decides to stop halfway through and then fucking gaslight you into liking the villain.
Life that I talk to who I don't have the same video game opinions as, and it's a fine and normal conversation because it's a really unimportant thing at the end of the day. But when we deal with alternative facts about Sly Cooper totally being a mega hit waiting to happen compared to those games that keep coming out for some mysterious and unknown reason, I just want to disengage because I smell nostalgia bias in the air. Issue 5, misunderstanding the...
Okay, so let me see if I get this right. If I disagree with you, it's because I'm being a nostalgic, biased fellow, as opposed to having an objective understanding what makes something good and bad.
Oh wow, because doesn't mean just because Sly had wasn't Sly was an
super
underdog
financially
and Last
good.
of Us was more financially better. Doesn't mean that that automatically means it's gonna be better than the fucking Sly there.
This is just an unnecessarily complicated way of calling you a bigot, Smart.
You're a bad
Nostalgia
person.
bigot.
Bragging about sales.
I disagree with you. You're bad. You're wrong.
Okay, I don't know who it was on chat, but somebody mentioned be wary of the wording they use. And that is coming back to my mind listening to this, because it seems like he's setting up being able to just dismiss anyone.
Well, that comment I think was...
Taryn, thank you, Taryn. Always pay attention to the language the words are used. As in, always pay attention to the language and the way they are used. Sorry, well.
That comment he showed, I think, was about how people are arguing for like a Sly to come back, and he's disagreed with that in videos, saying Sly was never like that financially successful, so there's no real motivation for them to bring it back, and saying...
But people still like it.
Yeah, but he's saying that people who think Sly can come back and be a massive hit are biased because it wasn't even a hit when it first came out.
But he was
Every game needs to be a massive hit. It just needs to pay itself.
And it could be a cult classic, and people still want to see another.
Also, he's arguing
when
about
you're just obsessed with making mega successes every time, that's when you start to fail.
He's talking about a series in the 2000s, in one of the most crowded periods of all time for games. We got Shadow of the Colossus, a game that is... I don't care how much you like that game is flawed to hell and back on just the basic fucking controls, and people still love the shit out of that game. Imagine a stylized game where you have a land perfectly on the object button. People would fucking love that, alongside the stylish world and the lovable characters and the clever writing. They would love that if you released it today. But it doesn't deserve a fourth, or it doesn't deserve a fifth outing.
So here's this remake that basically takes away the visual meaning behind everything going on.
Oh, the blue, what was it? Blue Point remake.
Blue Point.
It's just like the thing too. People thought the same with the Crash remake, and people are like, "Oh, the Crash games haven't sold well for like over a decade," and then they made a remake collection, and it sold 10 million.
Therefore, good. Okay.
Well, that's just the example of investors say this game can't sell well, sells 10 million. Well, that one can, but Sly can't. It's such bullshit.
Yeah.
People can-
Maybe the underdog game is better than the big hit game that everybody always hypes up.
Yeah.
degree, even years later. Here are some good examples. Sly Cooper. This one's come up a lot in the video, I realize. Sly 3 gave us an end.
Oh,
yeah,
here we go.
because you checked your script, I assume. You did check the script, right? You did keep count of what you said, right? It's
This
not
is
just
connected to the last video.
of course it is.
All right.
Story of realizing that life offered more than what they had, and that there was strength in moving forward and finding new things.
Not just what they wanted poor reading. Life was more than what they had. It's not just that. Life is more than what you think is your idea, like the goal in your life. Can be something else entirely. You can find the meaning in your life on the way towards a goal. And that goal
Other
can
than-
end up being some vapid bullshit. Like what Sly finds out is that getting to the vault was so underwhelming, he decided to marry the cop that's been trying to arrest him since he started his career.
The same cop that helped him with his fucking arch nemesis there through the first game and ended
And in
fucking
every game.
clockwork permanently in the second one.
But
Not because you hate what came before, but because you can stagnate by doing the same thing forever. The spirit of the developer making the game, which I think bled into every aspect of Sly 3's narrative. Something I never realized as a kid because that's such a nuanced idea in a kid's game. But then I just never accepted it after the sequel was released, as I just kept going on and on about how much I hated it, while people also get their hopes up year after year for Sly 5 leaks. Less and less each time, to be fair. When it's in the community's best interest to just accept what we have and enjoy it for what it is. I did mean every year, by the way. This infamous image is literally from 2013. Another great case study is how
what a non-point. We should just enjoy the awful game we've got rather than wanting them to make a better one.
Just enjoy the awful game. Nah, I wouldn't even go there. If Sly 4 was shit, if they had the chance to remake it, then fucking do it better. Fucking remake the whole stupid plot of Sly's got a new itch for thieving again. Oh, there he goes. There he goes off thieving again, and now Carmelita has to stop being on good terms with him now.
You think
This-
being knocked up with a kid would make you slightly warm up to somebody? Just saying. But
Yeah.
guess we gotta go back to the old antics. I'm sorry for making this a Sly Cooper rant video, Smutboy.
Well, yeah. Now he's jumping into topics again, so it's like, okay.
I guess it's the point is people want these franchises to go on, and he's like, that's why they start hating new things on.
Yeah, but they could always reinvent Sly Cooper into some other thing. They could do Sly Cooper Racing or whatever.
Yeah,
Like
the
it-
reason
I'd be down for that.
Yeah, the reason why I hate the idea of new Sly Cooper is because I know they're gonna try and ruin the story that 1 and 3 had.
You're gonna
Make
miss
it-
the entire point of what 1 through 3 had set up.
Yeah, it's like, let go. It's the entire point of Sly Cooper 3. Let go. Find what's important in your life. Don't just
It's just
blindly
weird because
follow
he
the goal.
used to make that point when I think he used to make that point in regards when he did his first review of 4.
Yeah, that was his main bludgeoning point, is that the entire game misses the point of Sly Cooper 3. And now he's saying, oh yeah, the narrative is meandering because he's just trying to do what Sly Cooper 2 did. You disingenuous cockwaffle. You're shitting on Sly Cooper 3 because you got beaten in submission over Sly Cooper 4. Sly Cooper 2 and Sly Cooper 3 are wildly different games that, not just narrative-wise and mechanic-wise, just gameplay-wise and how they feel.
There's also a bunch of people who like to shit on the near the end of Sly 2 with where one of the villains explains what was really going on the whole time, the whole plan in 2 minutes, and then I guess that's too much of an explanation. You gotta cut that short, I guess. Like, holy.
It's an asinine point to make about Slycuber 3. Whilst his favorite game is Slycuber 2, which has some of the most, as Michael already said, one of the longest drop plots in a fucking PS2 game.
Like, I have no problem with the explanation part.
No.
I just find it funny how whenever they always like to shit on the other one, it's like, hey, wait a minute. Hey, what about that thing then, huh? Oh, I guess that thing's still bad.
What about the entire second half of Slycuber 2? Where it's literally meandering through the plot, where it reuses a previous character to justify not exploring different ideas for said character, but to introduce a new bad guy. And then in the third half, the game goes, fuck you, fuck your car, fuck everything you have. Everything is dead and gone. Go fuck yourself. Bentley's legs are broken. Murray has his soul broken. Sly's been taken into custody.
Fucking Neela became a digital demon.
And got murdered. Like, if you want to shit on Slycuber 3, you have to use the same standards then when you're proceeding in Slycuber 2.
It's like fucking both games get dark, really dark near the end.
The whole trilogy is really dark, kind of dark.
Yeah.
The first one's a little lighter.
There's an entire monologue about Clockwork systematically butchering every single Sly Cooper there was.
Game starts.
I may have brain farted there.
All right, let's continue. We're almost done.
Ended on this episode back from the dead, and Beast Boy wants to get to the bottom of it over helping the other of the week. The episode ended with no answers really given on what was going on. Naturally, the fan base wanted to see Season 6 for years, but the cast and crew knew going into it that there was never going to be a Season 6. This was intentionally the ending. There is no cliffhanger. Maybe you don't get it when the episode came out back in 2006. I mean, I was 5 when the episode premiered, but that's okay. It's looking back on it with an adult lens that allows you to see what they were truly going for. And failing that, you could just listen to the people who made it. Here's Kari Payton, the voice of Cyborg.
We don't care.
We wanted to do a Season 6. You know, we wanted to explore, Starfire's kind of personal journey, kind of the way that everybody else had. But it wasn't in the cards for us. And so we thought to ourselves, what is a teenager's last lesson? This is Teen Titans. This is the end of the road. This is kind of graduation in a way. So what is the last thing that we all learn as teenagers? And we're thinking about high school, and you graduate, and they're friends that you had all your life, and you become very close to, and then for whatever reason, the relationship doesn't go the way that you think, and you never see these people. There's somebody that you thought that you'd be friends forever, and you never see them again. And maybe there was something that there's some closure that you wanted. But you know what? Life doesn't work that way. Once you become an adult, life doesn't work that way. And sometimes you just got to learn to move on.
For more information, you can watch the video my friends at the Watchtower Database did on the subject. It was really good. Having now lived past the age he was talking about in that clip, I totally get it. In life, things change, and it's okay. And not everything gets wrapped up into a neat little bow. You keep going on for the things you do have in life, not chasing the things you don't. Things change. People change, often without explanation.
They ran out of film. They couldn't make any more. Their season was done. It didn't get renewed. That's it.
And it made the entire ending about things needing to let go of things.
You had to wrap up the story in a unceremonious way because that was unexpected to end that way. That's that. And then they got renewed for a different show of the same content or different.
Not kind of different content.
Different content of the same show. Yeah, it's the same idea.
Also, don't you fucking show the ending of Sly Cooper 3 while shitting on you.
It was nowhere near as bad as fucking Teen Titans.
Yeah, but you don't need the creator or the voice actor or whatever to talk. Like, this is not necessary.
None of this is necessary. This video was unnecessary.
I think I kind of understood. I mean, I just remember being like, oh, it just didn't get another season, but it still answered some things.
Yeah, I guess.
And we aren't owed one minor compared to the other ones, because if you remember Teen Titans years, that's fine. It's not like I expect everyone in the world to have seen the clip I just played, but the problem with ignorance and never having reached a deeper understanding of these nostalgic things is Issue 6, Obsessing over Hating. This...
What?
Okay, motherfucker. Okay. why would you show the inability to let it go as if that's a counter to people hating Sly Cooper 4?
Yeah, but think about any game. It's like, well, why did they do that? Why did they make this story or movie this way in such a crap way? And then they go, well, you weren't listening to George Lucas's behind the scenes extra clip scene. It's like, I don't need to watch that.
It's kind of like pottery. It rhymes.
Like, this is so dumb. I don't need to know what was going in their head to make crap media. I can just look at crap media and go, this is shit. I know what shit is. It smells and looks like shit. I don't care if it was rushed or they ran out of budget or there was hiring freeze or writer's strike. I don't care. It didn't turn out the way it was supposed to. It was bad. You didn't plan it out. There's all kinds of reasons why it didn't work. You don't need, well, look at this evidence of this guy saying this thing in this office scene. It's like, no. It's bad.
Also, Slash says, what do you think ruined the franchise more, Last Jedi, Teen Titans Go? Last Jedi. Teen Titans Go still got a movie after going from a TV show. Absolutely, Teen Titans Go is a better one. And they made a good movie out of it, too. While The Last Jedi was come out since Last Jedi.
Is Go supposed to be I've never watched Go. Is Go supposed to be a continuation of the Teen?
It's a comedy off his own thing.
So it's just a separate continuity anyway.
Yeah, with writers that are very antagonistic view towards their fan base.
All right. Obsession over hating or obsessing over hating. This can be true in certain regards. I have encountered the forever angry fan, whether they're positive or negative about a thing, which is interesting because it doesn't matter. But it really depends on what exactly they're saying. What's the essence of what they're getting? Because you could say about a dozen different things about the same topic, and if it's like, okay, what is the, why are you so angry? Like, what's the problem? Because you could get emotional for a good reason, and if you understand that reason, then it doesn't really have to it doesn't need emotion. But if you're constantly repeating yourself and the person you're talking to doesn't understand you or the people do not, then it can get aggravating and you can get frustrated. So I see nothing wrong with obsessing over liking or hating or loving or dislike. It doesn't really matter what the emotion is. Does the media that you've experienced warrant that response? And usually at the initial experience it does, but then it goes away. But I will say that fans, no matter how long ago they experienced that initial experience that made them have that reaction, will still talk about those things 10 years later. And case in point, I have a bunch of fans I know from the BioWare social network, as well as my channel from 10 years ago. We still talk about Mass Effect and the crazy crap that BioWare pulled and Mac Walters and Casey Hudson and all the other people involved. So,
is this where I dog whistle to the Ruby fans?
You could talk about your fandom as much as you like. Hopefully not in this video, but
never.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, we still have ties to that crazy event in our lives which entertained us for good or ill. So there's nothing wrong with this. And if you don't like the fandom where people know that they love it, but there's this little nugget of crap which is like nuclear to them. It's like radiation, like it's horrible.
It's extremely sad that you're making this really good point that's relating home with me, and it's on some nobody's video on why nostalgia is toxic.
You need these people who know what they're talking about, like myself or others, that say this is a great experience, like Star Wars or Star Trek, or pick anything you like, and say, here's the excellent parts. Now, once we've gone over the positives, let's talk about this one horrific, absolutely god-awful thing. And for me, it's Star Trek Picard, or if you want to talk about New Trek, or other elements of Mass Effect 3.
When you say stuff, things that, like, when you say what you're talking about, are you referring to, like, games or stories?
It could be gameplay. It could be stories in the games. Like, for me, I'll say the ending to Mass Effect 3 is always the worst ending I've ever seen. The worst episode of Star Trek was Season 2, Episode 9 of Picard. Like, there's all these things I have in my brain that I just have not let go of because they're so bad that you can learn from them.
So Mass Effect or Star Trek is because when you say people like me who know what they talk about, I'm wondering, are you referring to just in general that you usually know what you talk about, or specific topics?
Well, from that specific topic, you learn a general. You learn a universal about storytelling, TV shows, movies, video games. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, it's so bad. Like, that's what I mean by when you see something that's wrong, everyone can identify something is messed up. It's kind of like someone's playing music. Like I don't know, Mary Had a Little Lamb. Everyone knows Mary Had a Little Lamb. And then the last 4 notes are just like someone just smashes the keyboard. And you're like, whoa, what the hell was that?
It's like a horror scene.
It's completely, like, this is wrong on so many angles, right? You can just take it apart. And some people are like, well, they meant to do that. They're having an emotional, creative moment. You know, do a little nouveau art style. It's like, no, they bash the keyboard with their fist. That's not Mary Had a Little Lamb. Are you crazy? So when you see crap like that, you could learn so much from, like in that example, being a good piano player, how to control your emotions, what not to do in certain scenarios, as opposed to having the fanboys try to justify everything by saying, well, this is a creative freedom. You know, remember that whole stupid shit with BioWare that people were defending? Oh, they have every right.
I lived through it, sadly.
They have every right to have the ending they want. It's like, that's right. And we have every right to tell them how bad it is.
I remember the Dragon Age DLC armor that was really good. And it was a DLC item. Pre-order DLC item, too.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember that guy's name, Colin McElroy or something, the guy who did that 10-minute spiel about how BioWare is free to say whatever they want. And he was part of IGN at the time. Colin Moriarty, I think his name was. And now he's cool, like out that. He's like, yeah, I was saying some stupid shit. So he did a mea culpa. But
I'm glad when you think of Mass Effect, you remember people that are still with us. I sadly remember Total Biscuit covering that drama.
Yeah, it was so like, because people were trying to defend whatever BioWare did, and the fans were so strong that they sent all those cupcakes because they were okay. We'll do something positive, and BioWare's like, no, fuck you guys. We're going to send these off to some, I don't know, some homeless shelter or whatever. They didn't even take them in kind. They just, like they didn't eat the cupcake while they were fixing the problems. They just did what they were told. So there's nothing wrong with hating the thing. That if it's your kid and they do something wrong, if you don't get an emotional reaction to your kid doing something wrong, you better get someone who's good with kids to figure out how to help that kid of yours, because you're missing out on their development. And I would hate to see that, where parents don't get involved when kids do something wrong or they don't learn anything. So we gotta have our children be better than us, and we have to have our media creators know when they screw up. So anyway,
I wish this was in a better video. Oh god, I'm sounding like Whisp. Sorry.
All right.
Is Picard 3 any good?
You know what? It has its good points. And if you want to watch it, you'll probably have a good time. So if you do watch it right now from episode 1 to, 5 or 6 now, you'll probably enjoy it. However, me being the hardcore science fiction guy, I got turned off by episode 2 or 3, where they essentially had a portal gun. And they had a portal gun ship-sized. And I was just bashing my head against the wall, and I stopped watching it. So,
like Portal video game? Portal?
Yeah, Portal. They got a portal gun. Yeah.
Oh.
I know. I was like, okay, that's not. There's nothing wrong with that. That's technology. That's fine. You could use that in science fiction. But the way they used it and the way that the other ship reacted to it was so dumb. It was so insulting to my intelligence. I was like, okay, this is not for me. So anyway, let's keep going. Mad Courier 6 again, sir. Thank you. Ruby is obsession over hatred. Oh, is it? Fair enough.
It's certainly the emotion it gets you. I have somebody who I will refrain from naming, who refused to engage with Ruby for the longest time, and eventually checked it out while she was bored, and now the brain rot has set in.
Well, it's similar to the reaction that people have of backers of Star Citizen.
Yep.
They know what they're getting into. They could be spending oodles of money. It's been over, 9 years? I don't know how long.
It's been over a decade. It got announced 2010.
Yeah, and no one is more harsh than those guys, and they have every right. They have every right to be as angry as they want, and they need to be angry to tell that son of a bitch to release the damn game. I don't care if it's not the most perfect sphere that you have to now polish with the perfect silicon gel to make it extra shiny. Like, I don't care. It's been over 9-10 years. Get that thing out the door. But
Do you think it'll ever happen?
I think it will. I just don't know when. Like, it could be the next 2 years. It could be the next 20 years. I have no clue, but it has to come out. There's no way he can't. Like, he's going to run out of money eventually, right?
Could it be he's just indefinitely making it to avoid legal consequences once it does come out?
No. He's even if that were the case, he'd realize, his lawyer would say, well, you eventually have to do something or else it's fraud. So even if he has if he's burnt through like 200 million or whatever the number is, he would still need some money to pay his lawyer. And at that point, the lawyer would say, okay, either pay me now or get another lawyer. So he's not that dumb.
He could also just tap into not quite endless ESG money anymore, but still plentiful ESG wealth. So he could start putting in diverse elements into his narrative, at which point, yeah, he could keep going for another 5-10 years.
Another virtual ship that costs 10 grand or whatever nonsense. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
The love ship between two men or whatever.
Here's Gingaman. Hey, Ginga. I can name 3 games that debunk Jay's arguments. Those are Kingdoms of Amalur. Okay, good point. Dragon's Dogma and Spec Ops: The Line, and all of them released at least 11 years ago.
I was tempted to bring out Spec Ops: The Line when he started talking about The Last of Us being his favorite game, and I was like, well, when I think of Spec Ops: The Line, I'm like, I don't know if I can say it's my favorite game of all time, but it certainly ranks up there just because there's so relatively little control you have outside just shooting people.
It is a very straightforward experience, but the way that they create set pieces for what the character is going through, as you actually hear the gradation of his insanity or psychosis rather, whereas when you kill someone, he says something different in each new level, as that's, which I thought was nuanced, and
Tango down, target eliminated versus got the fucker.
He just goes like right at the last, like he's just screaming, he's grudgingly screaming. Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Area clear versus it's over.
It's great. Anyway, we're gonna stop here because I'm tired of this guy, and I don't think he's gonna say anything.
the text speed
Just
us.
2 minutes.
No, the text is
I
fine.
mean, you could finish.
Let's go for the last 2 minutes or minute.
It's just
20
2
seconds.
minutes. It's just
There's no point. What's he gonna say that we don't already know?
That's fine.
Maybe
Yeah,
he'll
honestly.
throw a
Biggest
wild
issue of them
card.
all the previous ones are matters of opinion, and if you're minding your own business, they're all just pet peeves of mine from a vocal minority, not a serious issue, but it was all leading to this. I just find it depressing how obsessed people are with hating things they don't like and usually haven't even seen. Here's an example.
Wait. First
We've
off,
seen the sequel, Star Wars crap things. They're crap.
why would you even take anyone seriously who hasn't watched or played a thing with their opinion? That's dumb. This is for people who know better and can love or hate whatever they want if they speak honestly with evidence and reason. That's normal. That's what critics do. So this guy just doesn't like people who are passionate and right and happen to be negative. Why? What's wrong with that? Well, you can't handle criticism from the thing you love. Oh, we put your thing off a pedestal. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, this black April.
The Ninja Turtles social media. They do fun posts all the time and celebrate the most ridiculous of TMNT media, like the anniversary posts about TMNT 3, a movie that is almost universally panned. The social media page frequently pays homage to the entire history of the brand as one turtle from each of the 4 cartoons.
Almost like it's a brand channel that is their job to create interest in the brand as a whole.
Yeah.
I think
Wait, did he say that was the fan thing, or did he say that was the official?
he said this is the TMNT page, the official one, and he's saying that he loves the goofy stuff they and talk about positive stuff about even the most goofy or disliked elements of the TMNT franchise. And my point really is, okay, that's their job. Good they aren't shitting on their thing that they've been hired to talk positively about. This would be like the Star Wars PR department over Twitter shitting on Star Wars Clone Wars, the animated one, or Star Wars Duck Clone Wars, or shitting on Rebels.
There are these idiot weirdos who camp out in every single Rise of the TMNT to tell the world how bad Rise is and how much they wish it wasn't there, for little reason other than it's different and therefore ruined, as if there aren't.
That picture is alright. Right, pictures suck. New bad, yeah, there's fucking idiots. So, you're gonna find people that listen to Mozart that go, this is bad, why do people like this?
You may as well just be posting anything on Twitter. Like, who cares? It's like...
At least he's using Twitter now instead of YouTube comments.
And the worst thing with the Rise of the Turtles thing is it does what every modern cartoon does, which is basically let's get better in the later seasons, when you should have done that in the first season.
Well, the Nickelodeon one, the first one at least, did something incredible. It was fun from the start. Look fucking weird, but it was fun from the start. And actually did something I think was much better than 2003's version, which I know is heresy. But they actually introduced the concept of aliens very, very early on. So when a certain plot twist comes up and Shredder is involved, you aren't nearly as flabbergasted as a total shift of the story.
Fair point.
If there are incarnations of the TMNT that are more your speed. And I doubt they've ever seen it to begin with. I mean, but I can't prove that. This is how earlier issues compound now. If you're obsessed with the back in my day thinking, this is the only endpoint. Spending your valuable time in life hating things that are not made for you and never were. It twists your love of your childhood things into hate of new things, and it's sad to watch.
Is your entire channel about reviewing stuff that's made by people from 20 years ago? Or 10 years ago, 15 years ago? Is that the whole
reviews Ratchet and Clank, Jack and Daxter, Mega Man, stuff he played as a kid.
And even then, 2003 Ratchet and Clank was better than the 2016 movie adaptation game.
Yeah, like...
Because it didn't... The fucking characters didn't look just dead-eyed.
Yeah, if I took a game or whatever media from 90s or 2000s, and it was just me glowing positively about, like, who the hell would care? I have to show up some nuance that, hey, Chrono Trigger is not perfect. Dragon Quest X whatever is not perfect. I have to give you something that makes you go, oh, okay, why was this such a big deal? And what's the problem with this game? Why didn't I get into it? And I'm going to show you the problems because, again, these games were very short at times or whatever. Mode 7 graphics weren't very good, or the color palette was shitty, or the silent protagonist was boring, or whatever the case may be. There's all kinds of issues. But if it was just, oh, this is gushingly awesome, amazing, I'd think, no. Like, can you imagine giving a story analysis of, like, Castlevania Symphony of the Night? It's like, there's nothing there. It's like some evil guy is in a castle, go kill him. Oh, wait, he's upside down in another castle. Ooh. Like, the level of dialogue is like, what is it, porn star quality? It's like, there's nothing there.
Being generous.
It's really sad. So, yeah, you can criticize games that are awesome or criticize stories that suck in games that are awesome. There's so many things you can do. There's nothing wrong with that. And we can obsess over that and make jokes about how dumb it is. That's fine. That's what Twitter is essentially, just making fun of everyone online.
Also, Drunken Mumble brings up a fantastic point, and that's aesthetics are so easy to complain about and criticize because it's aesthetics. I can shit anytime I want about The Last of Us looking like ass, even if I've not played the second one.
Well, look at the...
If it looks like ass, it looks like ass.
Look at that 3D TMNT texture with the light map or whatever they're using there in real time. It's like, yeah, it's not the greatest looking render.
This is dated as hell. And then you go like 2 seconds later and you see that awesome image of the turtles in black. And then the light hitting them, illuminating their fronts while it keep making the shadows behind them even darker.
Oh, you mean in 2003?
Yeah, the opening.
Well, even with
that opening is great.
Even with the 3D with Berserk, the 3D looks horrible. The lighting is garbage. The animation is stilted, but the story is great. So you sit through it because you know it's a good story, even though everything else sucks.
Yeah.
So.
And people are accusing you of saying it's not made for you. I don't think that's where he's going. He needs to just be going, don't let go. You must let go, damn it, Ray.
Yeah, this franchise that has several iterations that people love is not made for you anymore. It's like, what? It's not?
I think he's going Kylo. It's like, destroy the past if you have
Kill it
to.
if you kill it if you have to.
Yeah, this story about a bunch of teenage turtles for aimed at young kids or even at young adults. It's not for you anymore.
Yeah. It's just weird because how you said, Smud, about reviewing a game on its own, like even the stuff you really like, you can be like, oh, it's not perfect. That's how he does it in his normal reviews.
Yeah.
Like even with in his normal reviews, when he reviews the old games he reviewed as a kid, he'll go and be like, man, I love all this gameplay stuff, but yeah, the story and voice acting sucks.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with attacking your golden calves or your golden cows, whatever you consider is perfect. Like, people love the characters from Mass Effect, like Garrus and Tali. It's like Garrus is one dimensional. Like, he has barely any character to him, but people love him because he's your bro, he's your best friend, blah de blah. It's like, yeah, he's a nice guy, but that doesn't mean your nice guy has to have depth or is worthwhile to talk to. All he wants to do is calibrate his guns. All he does is talk about guns. He doesn't shut up about anything else but guns and bombs and tactics. That's it. That's all he does. So yeah, he's great, but he's not some amazing character with amazing... Like, Mac Walters was the guy who wrote him in the first game, at least. I don't know about the second game. Probably did as well. But there's not much to him. So, and we know the kind of writer that Mac Walters is in the comic books he wrote and the other stuff he wrote. It's not very good. So yeah, you could write a likable character because he's designed to be your friend, and everyone that gets associated with him and likes him as a result of that, and he's a cool looking alien, but he has the depth of a puddle. So that's just how it goes. Gigaman, again, how's it going? You want to talk about it being easy to complain about aesthetics? Look no further than Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker, when it was announced, especially off the heels of Space World 2000, Zelda tech demo. Oh, how times change. Yeah. And that was the more popular version of cell shading for a Zelda title, at least. That was eventually beloved. Not all beloved, but not at first, because everyone wanted the greater and bigger quality resolution of a fully realized 3D Link. So when they saw that, they were like, oh, that's not what I want. So when Wind Waker came by, like, ooh, more graphics, more levels, more environment, open world, more monsters. People like that. But
I'm still one of the tossers that thinks that a game looks garbage, but that's why I'm a minority.
Well, it's same with like the Minish Cap and Four Swords and all these other games, which I thought Zelda should be predominantly around the puzzle GBA style world. Like, it's all sort of overhead, isometric. Nothing wrong with the 3D stuff. That's totally cool. But my world has always been the 2D 16-bit sort of concepts. But I'm nostalgic for that. So anyway, 2 minutes left.
For years with Sly 4, for example. More information in the previous video if you want to hear about it.
There it is.
These are the same kinds of people who have been hate watching Teen Titans Go for 10 years. 10.
Hate watching.
I still just don't get the thing with that thing. I just kind of act as if, okay, you claiming to describe what you think I'm doing, so I'm just gonna play along now, I guess.
Yeah, that's just their understanding of what a critic does. When I did the review of Picard season 1 and 2, I hated every single one of those episodes except for maybe the first 2, because you don't know what's going to happen and it's getting built up. But then you realize it's just how bad it is, and you cannot believe how bad it is to the point where you have to document it and you have to talk about it because it drives you insane. Now, I could be emotional and say I personally hate it, and I could make a review with hatred in my heart and in my voice. But what's wrong with that? Again, there's nothing wrong with justifying your emotions and saying this is bad because of XYZ, and here's all the excuses and reasonings and whatever to explain that. So that there's nothing wrong with this. This guy just does not like people who go online and say, this is shit. But that's so common. Why would he think that way? This is such a simple thing to express. And I see nothing wrong with warning people of crappy things. That's why I didn't go into Picard Season 3, because I'm like, oh, you could enjoy this. Even though I posted on my the writing part of YouTube, you could post stuff. I said, oh, this isn't for me, or here's a dumb thing, where I showed the screen caps of the portal gun and the ship going through the portal. I'm like, ugh. But people like it. People like Picard, so at least there's something that Patrick Stewart and the TNG crew can go off into the sunset with. Say, oh, we did a good show. It's like we had some drama. It's like, yes, you had some drama. You got past the finish line. Very good. So anyway,
Before we finish this video, I find it very funny that he emphasizes that these people have never seen it and just like hating on it, and then immediately go on his point that people have been hate watching this show for a decade.
what's wrong with watching a shitty, stupid film or series?
Or is that you say that you do? How dare you express your dislike for
Yeah,
it?
but
Oh, yeah, it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't like the Force Light game. I mean, it's not like I'm a fan or anything.
yeah, but watch. Let's go. I could always sit down and watch the latest sequels to Star Wars. They're horrible, and you cannot believe how dumb they are. What's wrong with that?
Is that you should shut up about it. You shouldn't talk about it. You should just cut off your communication line.
Yeah, in
Just
hindsight,
stick your head in the sand like an ostrich. It'll go away, I guess.
I will watch whatever show with my niece and nephew, whatever they want to watch, and I'll keep my comments to myself. But I'll be like, this was the worst, dumbest thing I've ever seen.
I'm never doing this again.
I'll do it just because I love my family. It's the same with my dad if he watches some, I don't know, Star Trek Discovery, and I'm over and I'm watching it with him, and I'm like, Dad, this is. He goes like, yeah, this is horrible. I'm like, I know. Some of that stuff I didn't even have to tell him. Like, it was so bad last week. I was like, what did you watch? Oh, Star Trek. I'm like, really? Holy shit! It was like some episode of Star Trek where they had the leader of the Federation, this big black woman. She had buck teeth or whatever. I was like, what the hell?
What?
Everyone's gay. There's so many homosexuals in that story. I'm like, why? What's happening?
Wait, in Discovery?
Yeah. Season 4.
I have a feeling the Federation is going into decline.
And then you got the one line in that dumb show of I'm not binary.
What was the show that featured footage of January 6th? Was that Discovery? Or...
Yes.
Really? I didn't see that episode, but
No, wait, Picard.
Picard.
Was Picard.
It was Brave New Worlds, or whatever that was called. It was the
first episode of
one
Brave.
after.
Yeah, they had a bunch of clips from January, but that was like, it was just like a short little thing. They were just showing the history of their world.
Picard was doing the climate change bullshit.
No. Picard was doing everything within like 2 minutes of one episode, and you're like, what? What are we doing? Gun control? Like what? What is happening?
Oh right, it also did the racist or whatever you want to
the
call
ice-
that thing at the bar.
The ICE police guys who are at the
Oh.
border, and the
Men in
climate
Black.
change. They did surveillance. They did all this shit. This is too much within one episode. It was so dumb. Picard's a horrible show, at least the first 2 seasons. So anyway,
He's jumping around a bit. I noticed he's like nostalgia is what fuels this, and he's jumping between
yeah, if
long running franchises
Yeah.
as well as developers that go on to do different things.
Yeah, just go into his comments for the next month every day and talk about how I love hate watching, and you don't understand the nuances of enjoying something which is crap, like watching The Room over and over again and enjoying the crap out of it because it's so bad it's good. Like, just, oh, maybe I should change my opinion on appreciating what's crap in the world of video games or something. Who knows? This guy is a malleable piece of clay.
Season 6 hasn't been taken away by Go, it's just a goofy parody of the OG series. The show you can buy on Blu-ray that is going nowhere. People like this get made fun of in the show and still don't get it. if the things surrounding that which you supposedly like.
It's a parody written by people that didn't watch the show, though.
I'm very hostile towards people who watch the own show.
Is it not? Does it not seem a little bit like just the smallest bit ironic that you spend all this time ranting about people that didn't watch shit, while highlighting Teen Titans Go, a show written by people that told the media, told their fans, they didn't watch the original show?
There's nothing wrong with being fueled by rage or anger or hatred or love or whatever your emotion is to get your point across, provided you think it's justified and you have evidence to support it and all that jazz. There's nothing.
And you make sure to kill the opponent.
Yeah, he just made the original is still there, so you don't have. So why hate the new thing argument that people bring up with remakes? Like people brought up with Ratchet 2016 being like, well, you still have the original 2003 game.
Yeah.
So therefore.
Yeah, it's the same with talking about Andromeda. It's like, this is a horrible game made by BioWare. Well, you still have the original trilogy. It's like...
Yeah, now this franchise is dead.
Now you've killed it, BioWare. I'm going to laugh at you, your stupid ideas. Oh, don't worry, they're making a fifth game, whatever game. I don't know.
They're going to make a fourth game. They're going to strand that person in Egypt too.
Also, on the topic of, Sly doesn't deserve a new entry. Votoms, a completely obscure-ass, hard sci-fi mecha anime, still has content coming out on the front page of Mecha's page, like on the front page of hobby papers.
Yeah, do a poll. Do a poll of your fans. You want another thing you love? No, we don't want. No, we don't want Batman.
That's what Gundam's PR team does all the time, is poll people about what stuff they like, what they didn't like about franchise.
Yeah, I saw that when I used to play League of Legends. Every month there was a poll they wanted you to do about what was your experience like, what hero did you like, why, how long was it more expensive than you thought, like all these dumb questions just to get the right nuance of how much it should cost, what kind of hero it should be, is there too many, should we focus on maps, all these questions. Every month, I got tired of doing them because I was like, am I helping these guys? They're just asking me all this data, and this was like this is right after they did the whole you could vote on whether a guy should be banned for a month because of his bad behavior. The was it called not the jury but the
tribunal?
The tribunal was something like that called. I can't remember. It was like, this is getting over the top.
Even Blizzard's at least started trying to look for actual player feedback in Heroes of the Storm when I was still playing it.
Oh.
And but I'm sorry, I do not know how to explain this. Since this is a long time ago, the questions always felt leading, as if they didn't really wanted your opinion. And it would only occasionally pop up, because it was never asking me stuff I wanted to give an opinion about, but just regular crap that no, that's fine. That's fine. Can you ask me about this one specific map that I hate, because it seems everyone hates it anyway?
Yeah.
Can you ask me a question about Twisted Tree Line? I would really like to shit on Twisted Tree Line.
Yeah, can you make more than one map? Ever? It's been like 12 years.
Can you give it a new skin, please?
Yeah. Anyway.
Log off. So here's my point in all this. I love nostalgia. I really do. And that's what I was saying at the beginning of the video as well. But when nostalgia is turned from a love and appreciation of the past into a spiral of hate on things that are new, I think people do themselves a disservice.
No.
If the new thing is shit, the new thing is shit. If it's objectively shit, it's shit, and it deserves to be shit on.
Like, I'm sorry, but you look at this final boss fight, and tell me this is good. Come on.
Why would you like? Why would you ever hate a game that does a fucking boss fight of another zone's boss from the previous game, the pirate area? His boss is done like this, but it's a dance. That's the entire point of the fight, is that it's a dance against the enemy using rapiers or using cutlasses. But here it's just mashing triangle.
And he, by the way, this is just one of the This is literally one of the worst villains in the series for the fact that he's just a pettier version of the main villain from third and first game.
And he's French.
He's like a mini boss.
No, it's even worse. It's like a redux of the first villain and the third villain.
Clockwork.
Now he's just of Clockwork and Dr. M, but now he's just even pettier in the way of my daddy got put in jail because your daddy happened to be at the same robbery that my dad was going to commit. So it's your fault now, I guess.
All right. Well, can we stop this guy? Because I don't think we're going to learn anything from him anymore. And this is...
I think we're at the end.
It's a minute.
All right.
You become more insulated and stubborn, dismissing new things out of hand. You can like or dislike whatever you want. I have to restate that because it's true. Things that suck based on old IPs come out all the time. I just don't watch them because I don't really give a damn. If you believe...
So you were supposed...
What?
Oh my god, stay consistent! Can you only shit on things you've seen? Only shit on things you've played? Alright, means that you have to be exposed to those things, letting the brain rot set in. Which was my point about Ruby. The moment you touch it, it's like radiation, it doesn't leave you. It will leave permanent scars on your DNA. That is how media works, that's the point of media. Is that it stays with you, teaches you lessons. And the ancients learned that really quickly. That's why all the stories that get perpetuated are eternal. But in the age of you can throw anything together with a couple of dudes in a basement and publish it for millions of people, then you can have a bunch of stupid shit, a bunch of terrible ideas get imprinted upon the viewer. And what do you have to do except hope and maul? Talk to others about it. Discuss it. As Smut brought up, the fans of Mass Effect 3 try to be really supportive. The directors and the writers, the people behind the game, do not give a shit. Where do you go from there? Where do you go from Mass Effect Andromeda? What do you do as a fan?
Straight line.
All right, you want to keep going, guys? I don't think we need to.
No.
All right, just get the...
TMNT is bad and have reasons
Just let
why
it play.
beyond being what you're used to and don't go around being a miserable weirdo about it. Fine. You're entitled to your own opinion, as am I. I just hope that people can still appreciate the things they loved as a kid for intrinsic reasons beyond it not being the new thing. And I also think there is strength in letting the things you loved as a kid move on without you. It's okay. I've never seen Rise of the TMNT because for me, I've already got a version I go back to. But for the kids of the late 2010s, they decided to do something different and a lot of people really dig it. Who am I to make a scene about it? I already went through that when the 2012 version came out and I watched a couple episodes of it and I decided I hated it because it wasn't the 2003 version. Now, I'll give my opinions on things I like and didn't like if I'm doing a video on...
So you dismissed a good show out of your own blind nostalgia hate!
So
That's the main point, I think, of his video, is I used to be like that.
I used to be.
Don't be like that.
He is like that! He just said he didn't go back!
Well, he called them.
Yeah, you're right.
He called them all miserable weirdos. So I'm not the miserable weirdo. I'm just happy in my nostalgia. Okay.
Oh, you're right. He's not the miserable weirdo. He's the same guy. He's like that one guy in the Smut Suggestions who simps for Skylar White in Breaking Bad. She can do no wrong.
Is this video, is this guy just
Yelling
saying
at the
absolutely everything that could be said in every possible combination?
Just the same
So
thing.
that
of-
the anyone who just passive, lightly listens to it in the background will just hear the snippets he agrees with and think, oh, this is a good video.
he's just the
I'll
same thing. Of
subscribe.
the first. It's basically the first half of the video is just nothing, and then the real truth of what he's trying to get at. It's just stop yelling at me. Stop disagreeing with me.
This was 20 minutes of gaslighting.
I think I fell
Yeah.
asleep at some point.
This is a
That
guy
is weird,
basically
though.
saying, why aren't you consuming the worst stuff? Like, be glad you at least got a slight 4, man.
He's
This point is
defending
weird, though.
media. He's defending media he hasn't seen, which is the rise of TMNT. Says that you need to consume stuff to have an opinion on it, and then says that instead of blindly hating on stuff that you watched a couple episodes of and clicked off because it wasn't for you, he admits that he did the same thing with a good show.
Yeah, and he
The
said
people
earlier
like.
about Last of Us that the reason he didn't watch it was because I don't like it because it's new. I have the older Naughty Dog stuff, and then he said he admits he tried it and he liked it, but he didn't do it for this show.
But everyone else are not allowed to do the same. Nobody else is allowed to see TMNT rise, constantly being brought up whilst they fucking hate the visual aesthetics of it. Or maybe they even see the episodes and hate the fucking writing of it. Oh, they aren't allowed to say that they hate it. You are allowed, however, to say that you hate a Nickelodeon show, which most people would agree is fucking good, in your video. Oh, but that's because you're talking against the hatred. You're covering the topic. Alright, you miserable little weirdo. See what I did there?
I did.
Oh, fuck.
Finish.
Sonic Frontiers, but it doesn't live in my mind rent-free. Which is out there in spades.
Just admitted you have covered nothing but video games and content that is tied to your childhood. They live rent-free in your skull. There is nothing more self-indulgent than making videos about something that is important to you. That's fine. But don't try to act like you're holier than thou when your entire channel is built up around covering stuff you liked as a kid. You were saying before, Mike?
It's just one of those. Some what you were saying there, right? Just agreeing with you.
All right.
It's just
Which is out
very Go on.
there in spades, as there are just so many great shows to be invested in and games to play. And I hope, through this ramble, maybe somebody has learned something or seen things from a different perspective. As again, this isn't a large...
Yeah, no, not the
global
shit that
scale.
you like,
It really
because
is something I
your
noticed
taste
over
is
and
shit.
over in different internet communities, and I wanted to speak on it. But that's pretty much all from me today. So I'll now say what I always do at the end of the video.
I mean, most of his tastes are just, I'm gonna go back to this thing. This thing got a better remake of the thing. Therefore, the original is inferior. I'll always go back to the remake. That's what he said in his Resident Evil video. That's what he said in his Last of Us thing. You can gather how bad his tastes are when you see most of his videos. Because just at the end of the day, he won't give a shit about the original stuff. He'll act like he does, but he just doesn't.
He admits it's a ramble.
Just this whole video is just hypocrisy.
I don't care if it's a ramble. Rambling can be a consistent point. It can have a through line. This didn't have a fucking through line. This was him covering up his own failures and projecting onto everyone, gaslight them into being in the wrong, going, I'm right, and you're wrong if you think you're right.
You know, him being the reason for stirring shit up in the Sly Cooper fan base and just acting like, oh no, it's just the other people's fault. It's that, I may have fucked up, but, you gotta accept Sly 4, man. Come on.
We did get a free bingo card out of all this from Mad Courier. So it's only a 9 square one, and it's pretty good if you guys want to check it out on the meme channel. But
Chick streaming.
It's really good. It's a Smudcast video bingo. It starts off top left is the Whisp rant, which I guess should be in the center, but that's fair. Stop obsessing over hate.
Hold up. You're a little bit too low. You should need to go high up. Novus Kaiser went, God, trying to record himself, and it's just windy.
Well, guys,
is my mic that bad?
No, your mic's great. Anyway, projecting your foibles on everyone. I don't know exactly where we could have gotten that, but projection in general would have worked. Off-topic rants. Sometimes we do that, but I tend to rein it in. I can notice it when Wisp is going too far, but that's about it. The center one.
I am perfectly reasonable.
I know. The center is toxic fandom. Yeah, I think that's pretty generic. I think a lot of people use that a lot, as we just heard of. Didn't actually watch play it. Yeah, that's weird. To have someone criticize something they didn't actually pay attention to. Poor examples and allegories. Sometimes, very rarely though. I haven't heard that too much from these people. But I think more.
I think the little punctuations is saying what is in the video.
Well, I meant within the content of the video he makes that we'll have an allegory that is either poor or not well thought of. I don't remember one from him, but Maybe Maggie May would do it.
He brought up the guy from Teen Titans actor who talked about the ending of the show. Is that
About why they made it bad ending.
I'm not even sure what he was getting at with that point.
It was his intention to make a bad ending. Don't you see? It wasn't made for you.
Well, he said
made for
people
teenagers.
misunderstood it. People misunderstood what the end of the show was about because they were
because
like,
it wasn't
"Why
made
isn't
for
there
them. It
another
was made for
season?"
adults.
Oh, and we need to listen to the behind the scenes guy to make sense of the content of the story. It's like, sure we do, yeah. Okay, last two are It's Not Made for You. Okay, we heard that one. And straw man arguments, that's the big one, I think. I think that's probably the biggest. That should be in the center. Because we always hear someone attacking a straw man as if it's the biggest thing in the world. And it's just their bad take on criticism or critics. So, not bad. I prefer the 5x5, but 3x3 works good too. So, thank you so much.
We're gonna cover the rest of the memes.
I already did. You guys were busy watching the end of that video, which I got bored of. So.
Oh, okay. Why didn't you say so?
I asked like 4 times. You're like, no, we're gonna keep watching. I'm like, I'm not. I'm done. I don't
All
care.
right. Sorry.
Anyway, guys, how long was that?
Too long.
3 hours.
bit.
Jeez.
Oh my
Was
God.
it really?
3 hours. Anyway, thank you, fellows. That was a whole lot of silly, bad, poorly thought out, scripted nonsense, I think. Which the previous guy we covered, we could have done a second one. This guy, I do not care a whit. He can go off and talk about Sly Cooper all he wants. I don't care.
I mean, his friend is way more embarrassing than him.
Oh dear.
The Sabo guy, because he hates gamers. There was one audio clip of him online where he basically said he'd rather take a "you suck, man" comment instead of "oh hey, just constructive criticism." Yeah, he's that sensitive.
Oh dear. Well,
Well, I'm glad to know that everything I thought I knew about Jay turns out when he's just allowed to speak his mind, what was it you said called? That this was just a ramble, a self-admitted ramble?
He said at the end that he was rambling.
He's just another hive mind idiot.
Yeah, it's good to know that he really is just as shallow and spiteful as the people that he's critiquing here are.
all right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for all the super chats. Thanks for Gingaman for throwing money at the screen. I don't know why you do that, but you could have been on. But hey, you got a life. I understand. Thank you guys for joining on the panel. That was fun. Mike, glad to hear your voice.
Thank you.
Wisp, take it easy. Have a glass of
Wisp.
tea or a cup of tea, whatever you do in the mornings. Take it easy.
What are you talking about?
When you're sleeping, when you wake up, that's called morning.
No.
In the mornings, you have tea.
What are you talking about? I fell asleep during the
Yeah,
stream.
I know. I want you to go to bed.
But no, yeah, I fell asleep on the couch last night, and I didn't have sleep meds. I didn't have earplugs. I didn't have a blindfold. It was my brain felt like on the barbecue in the morning and all day.
Okay.
Go to bed properly this time.
All right. Well, let's go to bed.
I intend to.
Thank you, guys. Have yourself a great evening. We'll talk to you real soon. Good night. Bye-bye.
Night, everyone.
Night.
What is it?